All right, everybody, welcome back to Black Magic TV, and we are here in the Black Magic Mansion. Could be the last time we're moving
Let's hope
mansions.
not. Let's hope not.
But tonight we have stand-up comedian, um, local legend, my favorite chef at Lucky Boys.
Oh, that's too
Who-
kind. Too kind.
Mr. Jon Schieszer. Thanks for coming over, John.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Um, I definitely want to dive. I don't know John that well. We met
I mean, I first saw you months ago.
Months ago.
Finally got your name.
and then since then we've connected.
Yes.
But I'm pretty stoked to learn more about you because everyone that we know speaks very highly of you. I remember hearing about you. I believe you opened for Pauly Shore, correct? Was that you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Dan was telling me about you then because I remember when you guys came here and played.
Oh,
and you took
that's when we ran by Dan.
to Billy's antique sale in his
Yes.
front yard. Yeah.
No, that was great because Jamie's parents were over, and then Dan comes strolling out in a Allen Iverson jersey and like flip flops and Dan style. And
Probably a pistol, like
Polly
a old West gun
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
Just probably dangling a robe. Polly's like, who's this crusty guy?
Yeah.
So then they bonded, big hug, and I was like, you guys are the same person.
Yeah, they're like
this is
literally the
great.
same person.
And then got some really nice pics.
I'm a big Pauly Shore guy, but years ago I got to see him at the Improv, and
It's just like 2012, 13. I was on those shows too. Anyway.
yes, it had to be. So I at some point back then I would have seen you. This would have been
Yeah,
back
It would have
then.
been me, Benji Aflalo, or wait, let me do this properly. It would have been Benji Aflalo, Sandy Danto, and me, and Polly.
I said that sounds. I believe that could be
It
it.
was tall, European, German dude, Jew.
we I remember he had like fucked up his back, and he just the whole set Pauly walked across the Improv running his hand on the bricks, and then he would switch the mic to the other hand and walk back. But after the show, me and my buddy were like just huge marks for his movies, and he was sitting in a chair, and we sat there, and both of our girlfriends were like, hey, you idiots, like, go stand in line. And we sat there like contemplating standing in line so long that the line was like we were the last. We looked and it's like, oh, we're it, so we might as well get to the end of the line because there's only a couple people left. And then we got up there to get our picture, and he didn't say a word to us. He just stuck his hands out like this to us. Like he knew. He's like, oh, I know what these guys want. And he went like this, and he just sat in the chair going, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And then that's all he said to us, and we got a photo, and then that was it. It was like, ah, this is...
And in a weird way, that's really all you wanted.
Yeah, it was the
Nice
perfect
moment.
interaction with him after
You're like-
watching him kill on stage, and then just him like realizing like, oh, he is just this
I
weird
got to
dude.
wheeze the juice.
Yeah.
I was the guy. So with the back thing, little secret, back's fine.
Yeah,
Nobody likes being touched really by hundreds of strangers.
right.
So that was my biggest responsibility. One was do a head count. I have to go through and count everybody in the room, for money purposes.
Right.
Two, merchandise table. Can I have I'm not going to yell to blow out the mic. Can I have everyone's attention, please? And then everyone turns and looks, and I'll stand up on something. Pauly hurt his back last week. Do not touch Pauly. Hurt his back's really sore. And then that eliminates about 80% of the touching.
Right.
And then there's still a couple people that are, they'll get in. They'll be like,
Wow.
this is my picture of us the last time you were here, Pauly. Can you sign it on top of the other signature that you had?
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy
It's-
memorabilia. All sorts
It's
of stuff.
wild. It's almost like a thing where there's like certain people that they have like a cult following, and specifically I would say his is probably in the Midwest. Like Son-in-Law did that, but even just the movies in general, like those are the movies of poor people.
Biodome's
dude.
a banger.
Yeah, like in the army now.
I was like, yeah,
no, it's tight. What's
but
what's the
stacked
jury
up
duty
against
one? Is it jury duty?
Encino Man.
Yeah, Encino Man is the
versus jury duty. Not even.
Yeah.
I mean, anything with Andy Dick in it.
Those awesome movies that he made, like himself.
Pauly Shore's Dead.
Yeah, like
Yep.
those movies are crazy. They're wild. And I was like at it right when I guess it became affordable for people to like be like, oh, I'm gonna make like me doing this and like having a cinema camera sitting here in my spot.
He had a show briefly called Minding the Store that TBS ran that was based on the Comedy Store. But they didn't use real comics. They cast people in the show, and it just there would be cameos from comedians. But I think it ran 4 or 5 episodes.
Right, and then they canceled it.
But when I got out there was in 2005, and it's weird. You know, I always say hindsight's like perfect, beyond perfect, 2010. You know, because you can like see it how you remember it, and you know, looking back on that and to see him with that movie and really being, what, 05, let's say, Son-in-Law, Biodome, that's what, 92, 93, 94, 95.
Right.
Like the hot, you know, from 88, MTV, all that stuff.
Right.
And so
into the mid-90s.
Now you got like a 10-year gap. And so he's like, oh, what am I doing? I haven't done anything. You know, and now, you know, 15, 20 years has passed since then. And I told him when he was here, I'm like, Paulie, you're part of American fabric. You don't realize it because you're just moving and you're you. But like, I promise you, like the Weeds and the Juice, those movies, like it's like as Americana as you can get, 90s Americana as you can get.
Right.
You know, early MTV, the fashion, just kind of the outrageous personality. I actually, in the basement of the Comedy Store, found his script from Son-in-Law, and on the front page he wrote, I get to fuck the farmer's daughter, on the front page of the
Oh my
script.
God.
I was like, look at this, holy shit, guys. But
what?
Yeah, it's been real great to see him kind of come full circle. I mean, he was kind of the butt of a joke, but he got a mention at the Oscars with like Brandon Fraser,
right?
You know, and everyone knows who he is. I mean,
like no, everyone does.
Everyone that's over 30 knows knows who he is.
Let's talk about how you got started. When did you start doing comedy?
How
old are you right now?
I'm 42 right now.
Okay. So I'm 39, so we're right in the same age group there.
The first time I walked into a comedy club was and I'm kind of kicking myself because every comic's got it was October 17th, 2009, and it was at 7:30. They know the
most people are, but let's be honest, 90% of them are probably just making that up.
Dude, I need to just make up a date. Okay, so
yeah, just make it. You rewind it. We'll just start it.
Actually, it was May 6th, 2001, and
you graduate in 01 or 2000?
99.
99. Okay.
And so
this is you almost turning 21 then.
20.
20, right.
20, just like 20, yeah. And to back that up, like a couple weeks prior to that, I was sitting in a restaurant at Arby's on Shining Mission Parkway. It's probably still there, like all the other fast food from 25 years ago. And a truck had driven through the drive-thru, big wheels, obnoxious muffler, all that kind of shit. And I made a comment, like, why would you need that? You're gonna drive over cars, you know? Like, what do you need that in the city? Everyone laughed, you know. And then I just stepped back and I asked him, like, if you didn't know me, was that funny? Would you have laughed? And I don't know why at that moment I brought that out, or why that seemed like that was a joke in my head. And they're like, yeah, no, I think that was good. And so I went to Stanford and Sons in Westport with the Glazier brothers and all that madness, and went and watched the open mic, and it was so bad. I'm like, this is the competition? Oh my God, that's really encouraging. And so I went back the next week. I had two or three of my friends with me, and I still have this tape somewhere on a little micro cassette. And I had fun. I had a good set. I just talked about my cousin's white trash wedding, and talked about making out with the girl with the lazy eye, talking about my parents finding my weed, just real life stuff.
Right.
And it went over well. And a good friend of mine, who's a really funny comedian named Rick Ingram, he had done some stand-up stuff, and so I called him. He was going to KU in Lawrence. I'm like, dude, this is slam dunks here. Like you gotta come down with me next week, right? And so we go that week, have a lot of fun. 2 or 3 weeks later, it's the finals of the amateur competition, and to qualify for the Best of Kansas City during an open mic, you have to make it. They vote top 5. Everyone comes up on stage.
Right.
If you're a top 3 finalist, you get a 1 point, and you need 4 points to qualify for the finals and all this crazy shit, right? So it's the week before the tournament or the finals, and we're just like, all right, so here's the list of the going through, and they're like naming off everybody, and then Mike Baldwin actually was there, really, really funny comic right now, touring all over America, was right there with us, signing up for that open mic. So, and then at the end, they're like, Jon Schieszer, Rick Ingram, and we're like, we look at each other, and everyone kind of goes up to the room, get ready for the show, and so we grab the host, we're like, hey, what's the deal with the finals? We've only each qualified, we only have 1 point. And they were like, yeah, we talked to everyone. They're like, you guys just got here late, but you're funny enough, we're just going to put you in there. We're like, oh,
Okay.
sweet. And Mike Baldwin won that. Rick Ingram got 2nd. I got 7th place.
Nice.
But Baldwin cheated. He brought entire Truman High School, so we didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
But no, that 2001 in May, that summer, and then we had a little terrorist attack. A couple months later, and that kind of put the kibosh on comedy for a couple years.
By terrorist attack, do you mean our own our own government attacking us?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that Timothy McVeigh actually did plant explosives in both trade centers.
Yeah.
In 1993.
Yeah.
Set a timer for 8 years.
Yeah.
For them to detonate.
Yes, that's
on that
exactly.
day.
That's totally what happened.
So anyway,
The Unabomber also went.
possibly.
So we're at 9/11.
9/11. I'm in school up in Iowa.
College at this
college,
point.
failing out, coming back sparingly to do open mics. Thanks for getting me caught back up there.
Were you doing comedy in college too?
No, at one point I did one show at the bar up there.
What college were you going to?
This is called Graceland University.
Okay.
It's right on the border.
Oh, so it's in the
Iowa.
middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. Town of 1,500 people. Bruce Jenner went there. And
Wow.
I would come down from time to time and do mics. Rick was coming in all the time doing them. So he's like just getting hot, heating up, like getting guest
Was
spots.
he going to college as well?
No, he's going to KU.
Okay, so he was
for
in
him,
Lawrence.
It's a
Right.
30-minute commute.
Right.
And so really like the next couple years, I would say maybe get up 5, 6, 7 times. But it's more like I know I can do this. I've proven to myself that I can get laughs. And then fail out of college, moved to Columbia, Missouri, live on a farm with my cousin, his grandparents' old farmhouse, just like shooting shotguns, working, delivering flowers for my aunt, cleaning dishes in fraternities and sororities with my buddy and the business that he has, and then pouring concrete with my uncle, all just saving up money.
Yeah.
And I bought a car, moved out to LA 2005.
Okay,
January
so from
05.
Columbia, you went to Columbia to save
Yep.
money and
Yep.
just said, screw it, I'm going to go to LA.
Let me just go back and just shorten the last 5 minutes of bullshit into failed out of college in roughly 03, dilly-dallied around, and then spent about a year and a half in Columbia through that 04. That summer of 04, I go to LA. This is the key. Rick Ingram, the very funny Rick Ingram, has since moved to LA.
Okay.
So, and he is definitely my bridge out west. So he's been there not even a year. Come stay on the couch, more or less like stay on the couch of the couch I'm staying in, with this old friend from college or something. So I stay out there for 5 weeks. Every night we get in this minivan, drive up Sepulveda or La Cienega all the way to Sunset, and he's working the parking lot and the back door at the Comedy Store. And so I just sit up there in that summer of 2004, which is what they consider the dark period, the dark ages, like very slim crowds. They're phasing out the old comics from the 90s.
Right.
The big stars that we all know today are just starting.
Right.
Maybe not even like a fraction of what you would see today comedically, and like how powerful their comedy is. So they're just in 9/11 it happened. You know, comedy. This is pre social media, so that's not driving anything. But I loved it. I'm like, this is great. I'm meeting random celebrities. You know, like Pauly. I get to meet. That's the first time I met Pauly Shore. You know, that
Right.
summer. So then, at that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm every dime I'm making is going towards a car, and got that Mazda Protege that I
the
drove
Protege.
for years and years, and yeah, headed out, got out there in January of 2005. Yeah,
Sick.
yeah, and then what the fuck did I do when I got out there? I sold snow cones on Disney on Ice.
Okay.
That was the first job I got in LA because a bunch of my friends from college that had also failed out of college worked for Disney on Ice as vendors, making bank.
Right.
But it's just a weird job.
Right.
So they just happened to be in Long Beach and in downtown LA and Las Vegas right when I got to town. So the first 2 months, yeah, selling little princess snow cones.
Princess snow cones.
Yeah,
That's wild.
But I stayed there. You know,
Right.
I had my first couple checks, and then the job that I had washing dishes at the University of Missouri, they had branched out to UCLA. So actually,
Oh, cool.
I kind of just picked up that dishwashing job actually a couple months later, and then I was like, okay, I'm in. And I totally overwore my welcome with my buddy Rick on his couch, you know, after staying there for like 9 months. But, you know, I was pulling paychecks, getting up on mics, finally got my own apartment. That's kind of where I got in with the cooking, like where I really started honing in my
Right.
shit there was at fraternities at UCLA.
Okay.
And I worked with this Rasta from Senegal named Patrice, who I'm still friends with. I give him a call at least once a year. But he showed me all sorts of tricks, amazing, you know, just, I didn't know what jerk chicken was in 2005.
Right. Yeah,
And he's
right.
like, what? Come on. You know, and, you know,
The internet was still new then.
he saved me a lot of time. He showed me a
Yeah.
lot of ways to save time and get a lot of work done.
And cook for a lot of people at once
yeah,
too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. I was intrigued on how I did wonder. I'm like, okay, well, like you had to have some sort of training because you're like really good in the kitchen, and I can tell that by the way you prepare the food when I eat the food you prepare. So it's like it has to be like it's more than just being like, well, this is one of our buddies, and Justin showed him the ropes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Thank you, man. Yeah, I just try to make everything like I would want it to. But it really started. My mom was really good, and my grandma too. Just being like, "Hey, this is how this is made," or "Try this," you know. So I was comfortable in the kitchens, and then I worked at Emo's Pizza in high school, like Pyramid Pizza,
Right.
Mr. Good Sense, all these random, not necessarily restaurants, but just fast food, just gets you more comfortable
Right.
with products and all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff. And then. So then by the time I got to UCLA, watch out, man. You got a protege in your
Right.
Patrice.
And that was just a means to an end to do comedy then.
Yeah, it was. And then, you know, you can always go back and look at decisions life. I wish maybe I'd put more time into comedy because that shit was taxing. I remember like falling asleep on the highway in my car because I'd have to get up. I would go to work at 7. Had to be there at 7:30. I'd get up at 6:45 and then work at the fraternity until 3:30 or 4. I'd put dinner out and then drive 5 miles down Sunset to the Comedy Store. And then again, I got ahead of myself. A year and a half, 2 years later, I ended up getting a job at the store.
Right.
But they had a cold shower in the main room, so I only did it a handful of times, and I really, really like had cut up a bunch of onions or garlic or something that day. But I would just shower, change clothes, maybe take a nap in my car, and then work the back door or park cars till 2:30 in the morning, drive home, get 4 hours of sleep. And I was working at the Comedy Store at least 4 or 5 nights a week, probably.
On top of always cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always cooking. Now, summers were off. That was nice. So I knew I had this 3-month block to schedule out of town, to road stuff, kind kind of recharge my batteries too.
Right.
And
But you could you have to be there, right? Like there's no if you want to do comedy, there's no choice. You have to go to the club as much as possible. Specifically, I guess in that town, because that's the only way you're gonna get any sort of.
yeah, it's weird. There's a fine line between like doing that and then being there too much, and people are like, "Is this like a hanger on her?" You know? Or,
Right.
like I see this person a lot, but I've never seen them perform comedy. You
Right.
get that, and they're comedians, but like I've seen a lot of people fall into that scenario where they're like, just I don't know. It's not like people don't respect your comedy because you're always there. They're like,
Right.
well, where are you performing? You're just sitting up here crushing Coors Lights, and like, it's a great time, it's a great hang, but
But you gotta.
gotta.
So you would also go around to other open mics then.
I
I
would,
guess.
but not. I wish I had maybe worked a few less nights at the store to do that.
To do that more.
often.
Right.
But it got to once the store kind of got more popular. You could get guest spots upstairs. So there's 3 rooms. There's the belly room upstairs,
Right.
the main room, and then the original room. And so for the majority of the time that I worked there, the main room would be dark, except for Tuesday nights, tripping on Tuesdays, and then Friday, Saturday main room shows, and then occasionally a Sunday. But so lights off, dark on Monday, Wednesday, and probably Thursday and Sunday. So 3 nights a week they're doing shows in the main room, 7 days a week in the original room. That's like the main showcase room. And then upstairs belly room, which Mitzi Shore, Pauly Shore's mom, opened up in the early 80s just for female comedians originally.
Okay.
That was the intent with that. And so like,
No, is that is that the smallest of the 3?
yes, that's the
That's what I
smallest
kind of
one.
thought it
And
was.
there's a show called The Roast Battle.
Yep.
That's where that started.
Okay.
Was in that room.
Yeah.
Between, I guess, Josh Martin and I forget who. Anyway, they were going to fight, and they're like, just come back next week and shit on each other. And so it all happened organically.
Right.
And so, but that's why Mitzi put that room up there. It's like just anything goes, anything you want to try.
So you were there to see it when it was, and anyone that is watching this that knows about comedy will know, like there was that period where, like you said, there weren't a lot of people going, and then it kind of grew into a thing where every night of the week, it's like a thing now
Yes.
for the entire place to be full of people.
Yeah, and that is directly. So they got they switched talent coordinators in like 2012 or somewhere around there, and Adam Egget takes over. And Adam, for you viewers at home, he was the co-host on
The Norm Macdonald Show.
Yeah, on Netflix, and like deep roots Adam does in comedy.
Now in Austin at Joe Rogan's Club.
He's doing the mothership down there now.
Yeah.
And so that was nice because comics knew Adam he had worked, I believe, at the Tempe Improv.
Yeah, I think so.
And like I know, Norm obviously loved him. All of a sudden David Spade's coming around, and it just became a much more.
Yeah, the prior guy had kind of like shit on so many people that they were like, yeah, we don't need to do that.
Tommy was, he was a talent coordinator there for a long time, and if you've seen documentaries, he'll pop up. He kind of has a Tom Petty looking hair,
Yeah,
blonde, and he walked in off the streets. My buddy Freddie Lockhart was working the phones. He comes in, he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," and so they hire him. He's like a musician to work the phones and take care of Mitzi because Mitzi has Parkinson's,
right.
For the last, for who knows how long, 25 years of her life or, whatever. So he's kind of comes in as to help her out, maybe work the door of the phones. But over time, he's like slowly kind of morphs into like a talent coordinator position. And Mitzi would come around, but then less and less the showcases would be, oh, we're going to tape them, and then she's going to watch them at home, and people are like, she can't even talk, or he would come back and say, oh, Mitzi loved this, and like just there's no way she watched that video and said that to you,
right?
And so it just became, at first it was like, oh, cool, but after 6-7 years, people are like, she doesn't come in anymore. There's no way that happened, and then the place during the dark period, it was not welcoming. Like we would, no one was encouraging, and that was the like thicken up your skin. It wasn't just like, hey, you suck. It was like, deal with it, you know. And I'm glad I got thrown in some situations like that, because like when you go out on the road, those situations do arise, and it's like, oh, I dealt with this when like Ryan O'Neal was fucking with me, or you know, so and so was heckling from the back, or you know, whatever. But and because there was no one there, it just allowed that to happen. It's like there's, you know, 8 people in the audience. It's actually better now that they are heckling, you know,
right?
And because the last 4 comics just bombed, and you know, it was silent. So at least the audience is having more fun now.
Right.
But yeah, it's podcasting though, and social media, and then everyone just maturing, getting funnier, and getting a show here, and getting a small thing here, and then that leading to, you know, bigger and bigger shit. And then next thing you know, I show up on a Tuesday, and Sam Tripoli's got a line. They used to talk about these Sam Kinison. When Kinison was here, he'd ride his fucking motorcycle right off the stage, and he did all the, shot a gun through the fucking sign. Here's the bullet hole. And these lines, the Kinison lines, would go all the way down the. They would skip Queens Road is the next. So you have Comedy Store, Katana, this restaurant, and then Queens Boulevard or Road that goes up to the Hollywood Hills. And so we were like, there's no fucking way. But you'd have a line all the way down there, jump this road.
A whole city block.
Go all the way down to the parking garage. And sure as shit, Tripoli had that on a Tuesday. And that's when I saw that, I was just baffled. I'm like, well, holy shit, comedy's like now gone to another level.
Yeah.
Where he can get 350 people on a Tuesday to pay 20 for parking, 50 for the ticket.
Right. And so you got to see, you were there to witness things like you said, the roast battle stuff grow into being like a weekly thing. The beginning of Kill Tony, then you would have been there for almost.
Yeah, I didn't. So I was down in San Diego for a couple of years.
Okay.
But yes, Kill Tony, like Tony used to.
And the beginning of podcasting, really, you would have been out in LA for the like what essentially would be.
I did the first podcast at the Comedy Store.
Okay.
It was a sports podcast that I did for years with a buddy of mine, Eric Marino, who ended up getting a job writing on SNL. So he moved, and like we did it for like 5 or 6 years. It was really a lot of fun. But I would lug all my shit in a bag, carry it up to the Comedy Store. Tommy would let me take the phone room. It was great because we had Jeff Garland as a guest, Neil Brennan, Leslie Jones, just all sorts of. And so once I had those people, you know, which were decent names, even back then, I could reach out to random people in sports. And it's like, hey man, I really liked your documentary. Would you want to come on my podcast?
Right.
So I could I use it as an educational tool for myself, because I'm a big baseball history guy. So I was like, I got a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, here's our former guest. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. How's 7:30 on Tuesday? Deal. Let's do that. Yeah, the podcasting was definitely, but the Kill Tony, that was huge. I had no idea I didn't realize how big it was, but that, Tony, and you're not watching, but you saved comedy, man. You did, because I see the youngsters now.
Yeah.
Grew up watching his show, wanting to be on Kill Tony, since it's been on around for a long time now.
Oh yeah.
So you have 23, 25-year-old comics that essentially grew up on that.
My best friend, he's my oldest friend. We've been friends since the 5th grade, Randy. And Randy also probably isn't watching this. But years ago, I was very, very in tune with being living a street life, doing street life shit. And Randy was always wearing these Death Squad shirts, and he was like way into UFC. And then one day I was like, yo, what in the fuck?
Like the Red Band Death Squad?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
the original shirt,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
And I was like, yo, what the fuck? I thought it was UFC shit. And then finally he was like, no, dude, this is like these comedians. He's like, and this dude and like Joe Rogan have this podcast. And so I had no idea what the fuck a podcast was. And Randy essentially turned me on to the very early days of the Joe Rogan Experience, when it was them with like the webcam mics just getting high as shit, and I would like sit there like doing illegal activities and watch this thing, which then turned me into like I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. So then it was like, oh shit, like this Kevin Smith has a podcast. Then it was like, oh well, oh shit, and it just sort of like downfall. So I remember people being like, yo, you're old as fuck. Because are you listening to talk radio now? Like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, nah, man. There's like there's these things, and like people didn't get it, and that was before Apple put the app on the iPhone.
Obama being on Mark Maron's podcast introduced podcast to him.
Right, and it was before that. It wasn't like I remember you had to download the Apple app yourself for podcasting, and then all of a sudden everybody knew what it was. Like you said, when the Obama thing happened. But I remember in those early days, and then Randy finally being like, oh yeah. Also, he's like, I didn't tell you, but Kill Tony. Like, you should check out Kill Tony. And so after I found that, I was like, oh, this is like, the whole thing is excellent. I love every second of it. I've gone. I sign up every time just so I eat, like, whatever. I'll give her a go. Just
wait. Seriously, you go?
Oh yeah, if Kill Tony comes, I go and sign. I've even like I had jokes prepared last time we went. They came to Lawrence to the Granada. It was like the weirdest place to have it, and we all went, and I was like so stoked. I was like sitting there like, oh, I had this great hand job joke about my girlfriend. What was it? Well, my girlfriend gave me a hand job before I came here, and halfway through I realized she was using CBD lotion because I couldn't come, but I have the most relaxed penis in the room right now.
Or so you could also say you maybe twisted into a flaccid ejaculation joke.
That's the other option.
Could be.
But yeah, I fucking dude, I love.
Next time you save that fucking joke.
Yeah, I'll save it. Yeah, they will shit all over me for it. But I've been a fan of comedy forever. Like I've truly been a fan, and I've always been like, my whole life people told me that like, oh, you should try that. It was never like it was nothing I ever really wanted to pursue. Like, because I knew like my level of funny is just like street guy shit talk. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't correlate into jokes. It
can though, but you have to really put in the time to get to where that's a weapon. Like that's such a powerful weapon.
Right.
If you come in on your first mic and you're like, I mean, you could. Some people have the gift of gab, like right immediately. They've got that voice. But ultimately, something like that, you're going to want to pepper your act with.
Right, you have to have jokes. You have to have set up punchline. Yeah, it has that. Yeah.
Comedically,
but I was more. I dove into rock and roll. That was more. I create all kinds of things.
And every musician wants to be a comedian. Every comedian
wants to be a musician. And I was just a drug dealer who just was like, I guess I'll do this all for fun.
I mean, we just
at a certain point, I was like, I can't write these songs if I'm not really doing this stuff. You know what I mean? So I got to live. I was trying to take a hip hop approach to rock and roll, and it really didn't. It ended badly for me, but we're here now.
You know, I mean, you were this close to being like maybe a new. I was going to say House of Pain, but I'm like, that just sounds insulting. But
no, actually, that's the least insulting thing you could say to me because I fucking love House of Pain. People shit on House. When on St. Patrick's Day, I just kept making everyone listen to House of Pain. They're like, "What in the hell?" Dude? I was like, "This is the music of our people. What are we talking about here?"
Oh, that's hilarious.
But
yeah, Kill Tony, great. It's just it's incubating. Like, say what you want. I mean, we've gone through this period the past 5 or 6 years where. I just remember when I got to town, I did a mic, and the guy before we start, there's certain things where you're just not going to say here, and just went on this big fucking diatribe about. It's like, no shit. And my thing is like, why muzzle that? Like, I want to know who's going to say that because it's like. I know a lot more about that fucking person now.
Right.
They're not just like hiding in the shadows anymore with their fucking weird, crazy thoughts in their head.
Yeah.
But I went up and I was like, God bless Lenny Bruce, and then just went into my act. Like,
Yeah.
no one caught that at all because Lenny Bruce served jail time just so that he could say whatever he wanted
Got
on
some Lenny
stage.
Bruce records.
But I mean, Lenny Bruce isn't even that funny. He just said what he wanted to.
Yeah, he
he's
just
got
said-
funny
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
1960s, so edgy 60s.
It's
But
hard to go back into like, and when people, it's like a weird thing. Like people always say, "Oh, it's the greatest," and like to me, like you can't be. There doesn't exist in my world. Like you can't be. No one can be the greatest of anything, because that would like not everyone can agree. So like you can be good, you can be really good at whatever you do, but to say that somebody's the greatest, like, is kind of like, I don't know. I just don't see it. Like, there's so many people. I mean, that
why
are
limit yourself? If something's
right.
the greatest, and like, well, then I don't need anything else because if the best is right here.
Right.
You're kind of turning off the valve of like being able
Other
to
people, because they, even with comedy, it would be like saying, oh, this is the greatest band of all time. But is it the greatest rock band? Because this other guy, he has a country band and they're pretty fucking good. And then there's there's this pop rock band that's pretty good too. So can they all be the greatest? Like,
That's what
it's almost like being like, this is my best friend, which I just said that. But like, in this, like, I have so many friends, like, they're all the best. Like, if you're my friend, you'd have to be the best because otherwise I wouldn't be friends
right,
with you.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, no different than like a comic. Like, I think,
I got tired of shitting on comedy.
Yeah.
Like, so comedy's so big. There are genres now, and that's a great
Right.
segue into what this point is. Just that there's enough to go around. Like, you don't have to like every. Oh, they're not funny. It's like, okay, yeah, but they did just sell 1,800 tickets tonight, so somebody thinks they're funny.
Yeah.
And it's so I just got tired of sounding like a pompous asshole. That's not funny, but hey, look, if they're selling tickets, what isn't funny is the fucking YouTube, TikTok comics that, I mean, they get a fan base.
I
from the
have
shit
seen
they
a
do
weird
online.
thing of like,
That's
and I wanted
annoying.
to ask you
That's
about this. I feel like all these younger people are trying to be. I think they watched Andrew Schultz became popular because of Flagrant.
Yeah.
But if you were a fan of comedy, you already kind of knew about him.
Right.
And so he would put those clips up. He was like the first guy really that I think was a bigger person who's like when he put his special out on YouTube for free, you know what I mean? And then from there you see like he's preaching to people like no different than Joe Rogan telling everybody to start a podcast all those years. He's telling people like, "Oh, put your shit on YouTube. Put your shit on YouTube."
Ari Shaffir, YouTube.
Yeah, Ari Shaffir. Then Stavros started putting clips up, and Stavros was already popular from Come Down, but I found out about him through his comedy. But now I've seen this abundance of people just doing crowd work.
You're talking about the Greek Burt Kreischer?
Yes, the Greek Burt Kreischer.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. Gotcha.
But there's all these people now I've seen where it's like I've never seen them tell a joke. All they do is put these clips up where it's like, oh, your entire set is just crowd work. Like, how long? In my head, I'm going, how long can that last? Because that would be like me just going up to talk street guy shit. Like,
Yes.
me talking shit. And I'm going, this can't sustain. Like,
It can and it can't.
right.
I've seen crowd work is a big mental obstacle for for some comics, and that are really funny, and they're like, I'm just not good at it, and I'm just like, who gives a shit? Just go up there and just pick on that guy or whatever, just flex that muscle, work out that, so you're not vulnerable on stage. That's what it's all about, never being vulnerable, when you're up there, like working on that. Some people just can't do that, and so it's going to be, here's my set, blah, 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 apples are red, why are they blue, and it's going to be this, pretty much the same order, minimal crowd work, and if you're a feature, the middle comic, don't do crowd work, because you're fucking up the headliner shit.
Right.
You're getting the crowd all worried, wrangled up, talking to them, like the headliners you're not working with that headliner ever again.
No.
If you go into the crowd doing a bunch of crowd work and shit. So a success story would be Rick Ingram, the guy I started with. That's all he does primarily is crowd work, and he'll just pick apart the audience. You can look on Spotify. It's, I think, Rick Ingram, American something. Anyway, it was the first album released on the Comedy Store record label.
Okay.
And it's him. They just record his sets at the store, and it's him just roasting people.
Yeah.
And he did that forever, and people would be like, man, you need a set. It was hard for him to showcase. Executives or whoever would come in and be like, well, how can we sell you just shitting on Canadians? You know,
right. Yeah.
Whatever it would be. But about 16 months ago, Chris Rock gives him a call. He's like, hey, man, I've been watching you in the back. I like what you do. You want to go on the road with me? Go grab some suits. And every continent and 150 shows later, first class jets, nicest hotels, VIP, everything, you know.
Yeah.
And it's all just crap. We went to St. Louis to watch him last summer.
Oh, cool.
You work for Anheuser-Busch? Piss. You make piss. And
yeah.
Just roasting everyone. There was a pimp.
That's wild.
In the front row. The people in the front row are all rich, you know.
Right. So yeah. Obviously, at a show like that,
yeah,
you know, like.
So he just roasts rich people. There was a pimp. He's like, "What are you?" He's like, "Oh, you're a pimp, okay." And then what do you do? And then he goes, "That's my bottom bitch." He goes, "Oh, it's your bottom bitch, okay." It just shit roasts them. You know?
Yeah.
So by just doing crowd work, he's
made a
nice, he's got to see the world, and granted, he's one of the best at it.
Right. That's what I mean. You'd have to be really good at it.
But it's a tool you'd like to have in your bag, maybe not your one you use the most.
Right.
As a comedian.
Right. Because at a certain point, I feel like Rick can probably still write a joke if he wanted to.
Yes, he has. And he does have jokes.
Yeah. And I think that's it. Like Andrew Schultz, he's very well about peppering that in, like you were saying, where it's like he takes a piece of crowd work and can lead that. I think that's the key. You got to lead it into.
That's what all it's.
Lead it into one of your bits.
It's all
you know
camouflage.
What I mean?
It's smoke and mirrors. So I talked to you about. Oh man, I love that hat. Man, I used to have that hat, and then all the while, turns out my hat bit is my first 30 seconds that then segues into my playground bit, and then into my airplane bit.
Right.
And then next thing you know, I'm 8 minutes deep into something I've said 100 times on stage, but the audience is like, man, that's crazy. You saw the hat, and then he admit, it's just. I learned this by watching Chris Rock. Before I even did stand-up comedy, it's like I think it's a Bigger and Blacker special he has the thing that looks like the Colorado Rock CR on the stage.
Yeah.
And I was laughing through the whole thing, and I got to one point, and in my head, I was still thinking about the previous joke, but meanwhile laughing at this new joke, and then something in my head was like, how did he get to here? So I actually rewound the tape and watched it back from the 5 minutes, and it came down to one word. You find one word, you can pivot off that, like a turnstile, and go in any direction you want to.
Right.
As long as that's the bridge and it makes sense.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, I learned that from. There's this band here, and they were my favorite band when I was in high school, called Cretin 66. And I don't know if you know Cretin 66. But later on, when I was in high school, I grew up in Bonner Springs. Okay. The city was taught to us that it was a far-fetched to come down here. It was a long ways away, it seemed like,
I
right?
mean, 13 miles is 13
right.
miles.
So when we were younger, we didn't venture. I went to a certain point. I went to KCK, to 50th Street, and that was as far as I went. And then as I got out of high school, then I ventured into the city more. We would go to the Altorion to see shows, but didn't really we didn't hang out. We weren't accepted. We were too redneck for the punk rock scene.
Okay.
And we were too punk rock for the rednecks. So we kind of had this weird, there was this weird little culture of counterculture in Western Wyandotte County where we all did hick shit, but also we weren't hit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody might go hunting, but they might only listen to Rancid and No Effects, shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, if you grow up in the Midwest, that's it.
That's
yeah, that's
But this band, like Cretan, like you would see them play, and it's the same, like it's the same thing, right? Like they're every show they're doing this thing where they throw the Evil Knievel helmet onto the bass player tosses a helmet in the air and the guitar player catches it, and it leads into all these things, and then like he has all this shit that he says where you'd swear like, oh, that's crazy, but then you realize after seeing him 4 times you're like, oh, this is all it's all
Yeah.
it's like
that's
watching,
how good they are.
yeah, that's how good
You
they
don't
are.
know.
You don't realize it's just it's all theatrics.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned, like everything, like when it comes to rock and roll, like you have to have a shtick. Like every good band to me is like there's like something behind it, which I guess in comedy it really doesn't. It's not like that, but with bands, like if you really think about it and like stop, you go, okay, what is the jive here? Like, what are they doing? Like in the '60s, dudes would dress up and like out,
Right,
like
you had your
you
mods
might,
phase, then you had
yeah,
your
they
acid
might,
and-
yeah, whatever. So then like when like in the late '60s, all the bands they would have like the Indian shirts on and like do wild shit, or like a girl group, they would all wear matching outfits and.
I think comics that think they need a shtick are. There can only be so many Gabrielle Iglesias.
Right,
You
and
know,
it's a natural thing in comedy.
not that that's a shtick,
Your
I don't-
shtick is natural.
Yeah,
like
just
Theo
be you.
Vaughn.
Be you.
Like
I met Theo years ago, and I used to like really have animosity towards him when we were doing open mics way back when, because he was on Real World.
right,
Fuck that guy. He's been on MTV. What's he doing here?
right,
You know. But what he's doing here is being funny as shit. And
Right.
slowly becoming one of the best comedians that
Yeah.
we've seen in a very long time.
but his like. And that it's a shtick, but I undoubtedly, after seeing so many podcasts with him and being a fan of his comedy for so long, you know that like, oh, this is just because you can go back to like watching, if you watch clips of him on Real World, that's just him. He's just some weird dude that grew up in like an all black poor neighborhood in fucking Louisiana.
Dude, you just like we all see the world differently,
Right.
You know, and so that's all you're trying to do is just captivate that to your audience.
Right, how you
And
see
then
things.
the more comfortable you are in doing that, just the better it becomes. And then in Theo's case, as years go by, you get developed. You learn what's funny. You're like, well, why won't I do that again? Whether maybe it's a smirk or something, the way you say something, and then that then becomes more of your on stage or your let's say entertainment persona.
Right.
And no doubt Theo's saying some crazy ass shit behind stage or backstage and all that shit. But I can only imagine if a mic's on, maybe he goes up to 11.
Right.
On that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's like at some point I was like, did he just go on a camping trip with like Riff Raff for like 2 months? Because I saw some video. He was just crazy. It reminded me of like a lot of that rapper Riff Raff. It was like a similar sort of just whackiness.
Oh, yeah, Logan from Hillsiders.
Yeah, Logan. Yeah.
So he moved here, and Timmy that we were talking about before. Timmy, I was working for Timmy in Dallas at the Riot Room.
Okay.
And I just happened to be at the bar in the middle of the day. Like sometimes I would like do maintenance shit for them, but the day Logan moved to town, he showed up, and then he's like this tattooed nerdy kid, looked like a nerdy like white kid wearing a Michael Jordan Bulls jersey. And Timmy's like, this is my brother-in-law, he's gonna work here. And then since then, him and I have just been friends. But one night, Riff Raff played at the Riot Room.
Holy shit!
And we already knew who he was. I've been a fan of him because I'm really into Houston rap. And Logan and I.
You gonna buy the car, buy the watch, or you gonna buy the boat? You gonna buy the dock?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that.
Okay.
And we were in the green room with them.
Okay.
And it was as weird as you want that dude to be in real life. He 1000% is like, he's like like the over dramatized like weirdo artist in like a movie like I'm an artist. Like that dude was like that. We were smoking joints and it was him, these two chicks, and his manager was this like crazy black dude that looked like a pimp from the 80s. And he was in the were you ever in the basement of the Riot Room back in the day for like
No,
the green
no.
room? So the green
Oh,
room
yeah,
was this
actually,
that
yes, yeah.
dingy room,
Yep.
and it was just like a mirror and a couch. And so he
Like a
just
curtain, I
stood
think,
in
maybe?
front of the mirror, and it was at this time where he was like kept pumping up that he wanted to be a pro wrestler, and he smoked this joint with us, never said a word, and for 45 minutes I thought he was talking to me. And I was sitting there, and Logan is talking to the manager, dude, because he was rapping still then a lot,
Yeah.
and so he was like pimping his shit to this dude, and I'm sitting there, and Riff Raff's just flexed up like, why'd they put me on the cover of this month's issue of such and such magazine? And why aren't they talking about these pythons? And I was just like, I don't know, man, I don't know. And then after like 35 minutes, I realized like this guy doesn't even like I'm not even here. This dude is just looking in the mirror, talking to himself, and I liked him more. And then after that, I just looked at Logan. He's like, "Let's get out of here before, like, we knew it was time to go before, like, it was ruined for us." You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was awesome. It was like the best to see a rapper like that and have it just be like, not that he's fake or he's falsifying. He's just this like. It's like he was like a drama geek or something.
Look, positive
you know what I mean?
affirmation and money.
Right.
Like, just said, I'm doing this right. So let me just do this harder.
Yeah.
Let me just do this harder, faster now.
Right.
And then, that can either generate more sales or.
And I still like I follow him. I fucking dude.
He's funny.
He's
shit.
hilarious.
Dude, he's genuinely.
Those podcasts that those two
Like,
do.
there is Theo and Riff Raff podcast.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they're great. And like he did those albums with Simon Rex and Andy Milonakis. He did that Three Loco.
Not familiar.
It's hilarious. Dude, he just put out some like spoof of like redneck country called I Ain't Giving Up My Truck. It's like a song, and it's just him mocking all these people that are doing that. Dude, he every time he changes his persona, like now he's Dale D'Antoni.
Yeah, I saw
he was
that.
Back then he was Neon Deion Sanders.
Oh, that's
Like it's hilarious, dude. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe you. What is this? And then it's like, dude, he's just a weird dude. But he used to be a car painter, like. And that's when his dad owned a body shop, so he started out doing like so when he's like back in the day, he'd rap about doing candy paint jobs. Like that dude really did paint cars.
He has neon drip in his fucking blood.
Yeah, and like even back in the day, so there used to be it's still there. There's this place called the Wax Factory on Parallel, and it's a. I imagine at one time it was a record store.
Okay.
And then it turned into like selling CDs. I'm sure there's other things going on. I don't know. But I was working at Jiffy Lube in the Hood when I was in my early 20s, late teens.
That could be a Riff Raff song.
And I became
Jiffy Lube in the Hood.
Yeah. And I became friends with all these people, and that's who turned me on to all this Houston music. But Swisher House and DJ Screw, they would put out all these mixtapes. And even after DJ Screw died, Michael Watts would do it. But there's all these old, like, Homer Pimpson, The Day Hell Broke Loose. Like, there's this one line called Fuck Tracks. But they were all chopped and screwed music. But Riff Raff is on some of those mixtapes. And that's when I first found out about him. So after, it just was like a thing where I followed this.
So he has legitimate...
He has legitimate, yes,
okay.
yeah. And it's like a weird thing. And if you like notice, he's done a lot of music with people from Houston,
yeah.
like, and it's like a real weird thing. Where I was listening to a song earlier, and it's like, oh, I could see how this, because it was like prior, it was like early '90s Houston shit, and it was like, oh, this dude is definitely an influence on all these guys. But it's like a weird thing, like you find it's like. you know, this shit that you found out about in comedy way before anyone else because you were like there to witness it and see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
knowing, like being some nerdy white kid with an Elvis hairdo that has this like bootleg CD that's got like a paper. The Homer Simpsons were the great, dude. They were the best. Like,
I'm gonna have to YouTube that.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's all. A lot of them are on Spotify. They put them.
Oh, okay.
Michael
Good,
Watts
good.
put them on Spotify. Like,
Oh, nice.
so I'll show you after this.
Okay.
I'll show you. There's this one track called "Big Ball and Shot Callin'," and they're great.
I'm actually 420 Mid Mocana Festival in Columbia here in 2 weeks. I'm technically opening up for Paul Wall, but
Oh, sick.
I'm going on at 3. He's going on at 9:30.
Oh no, yeah.
I mean,
One
there
time my
technically
band
will be
opened up
7
this. I played at this
people.
car show, and I've told everyone I opened up for Whitey Morgan for 10 years because he played like 2 bands after.
But I'm going to bring a carrot. I want to get a picture with Paul Wall smiling, and I'm going to put a carrot in my mouth.
Yeah.
I feel like I got to get that picture.
Yeah. Also, great, dude. I still have them. Paul Wall and Chameleonaire. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
So those two made this record together. And it's fucking awesome. And then also went to Wax Factory. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But I went to Wax Factory, and dude, this was like such the most hood shit ever. Was that like they had it chopped and screwed by Michael Watts, but also on one album they're like wearing blue, and then on another version of it they have on all red, so that like you could go to the record store and you could get whichever like click you
I always
claimed.
loved the
Like
band.
it was the great. And I was
Brilliant, Mark.
they were like, I remember going and I'm with all these guys and they were like, yeah, give me red. And they were like, what do you want? I was like, I'll just take one of both. And they're like, they all looked at me like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll just take one of each. I don't need anything crazy here. What is the name of that record? Classic album.
No, I just had that summer that I was in LA, one of these kids we bummed around with, he would always play the ESG Realist Rhymin' all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is a fucking incredible song. And then like the chopped and screwed version would come out, a couple years later, actually right around that time. But that was kind of like I guess as far as Southern rap, it would have just been like Outkast, Goody Mob, just Atlanta stuff.
Yeah.
Even like, was it LaFace? I forget what was that, the record label that was on.
Yep, LaFace Records. Yeah.
They all had all that shit back then. But so I was like, oh, Houston, interesting. And I always loved hip hop growing up. Being from the '90s, it was like Wu-Tang and Tribe Called Quest, and even like Third Base,
right?
And some of that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I really like. I like all. Through my entire life, I've never not enjoyed music. I'm not a big fan of jazz. I've never found.
But at some point in your life, you will be.
Possibly. I sample, I dabble, and I
Yeah.
can deal with. But there's never been that piece where I'm like, yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Where I go, I get it. I just have never gotten it.
Yeah.
And there's certain bands. I was telling somebody today, like, man, I really don't like Sonic Youth, and they're like, what do you mean, dude? That's like my jive. I'm like, yeah, dude, my brain just doesn't get it. Like, it doesn't compute for me to be in like, it's like the Deftones. I also don't get that. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
there's a whole music scene there that those years, like, I just don't get it. Like, whatever, I can recognize that, like, that Shove It song or whatever, like, that's probably a good song. There's good songs, but I'm not putting that on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But man, 8-Ball and MJG.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love. I was.
Send me that because my buddy Carlos, who is he's like the stage producer for that Bad Friends podcast tour.
Yeah.
Is an old friend of mine, but he's Texas, Houston, UT.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he knows.
So like, I'm always about like sending him. I'm like, hey, is this? Oh yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah, dude. In
I'll take all
Texas
that
stuff, like there's this dude Zero that put out some records that are cool. There's those Paul Wall and Chameleonaire records, the old Little Flip, the old Slim Thug. Like I remember Mike Jones being on mixtapes for years talking about my album, Who Is Mike Jones, coming soon. And then when it came out, we were like, this is fucking sucks. This record's overproduced and it sucks, dude. And the same thing happened with Little Flip. They took all those guys and they tried to overproduce them. There's a really good podcast about DJ Screw, but there's a couple documentaries on like YouTube about him. But it's real interesting, dude. There's a really good compilation called The Legend, and I'll turn you on to that.
Yeah.
But dude, most of that shit from Houston, it's all freestyles. Like even those mixtapes, it's them like making beats, and these dudes would just go to his house and like if they'd be like, yo, I want to make a tape for my birthday. So these guys weren't even like necessarily rappers. It's not like they were performing shows.
Yeah.
They were just like, it would be like your comedy, like you just going to like your buddy's bar, like you guys are doing, and just doing.
Moreland.
Yeah.
You familiar with Mantan Moreland?
Uh-uh.
Okay, you familiar with shit? If it's gonna be that kind of party, I'm gonna stick my dick in the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
That's Mantan Moreland.
Okay.
He used to do party albums, and he would have people over, and they would record the album. So that is, I think, French Chicken, and that is a sample from a story where he has these two guys over for dinner, and basically there's some miscommunication, and the French lady asked him to fuck the chicken, and he was like, shit, if I would have known it was going to be that kind of party, I would have stuck my dick in the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that party
Same
album.
kind
That
of
was the
job.
thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
cool.
Little side
I'll
job
have
there.
to see that. But yeah, it's just like a weird thing, dude. And like, dude, like weirdly enough, like George Floyd used to live in Houston and was on some of those mixtapes back in the
Really?
day. Yeah.
What the?
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Big Floyd. That was his rapping name.
No shit.
Yeah.
No one's. Didn't come up. I guess there was a lot of other things being said at the time.
Yeah. But yeah. It's
I got to meet Shock G one time.
okay.
Super nice dude. Looked like he was 25 because he came up. I was like, oh shit, that's Shock G, but he had kind of gray hair
Right.
and the face still super young.
Yeah.
And then I started doing. I'm always like counting years in math, and I'm like, well shit, he was 18, and that was this year, and I'm like, damn, is he really like 48? Or, because this was a couple years. Oh,
yeah.
and whichever one of Bone Thugs and Harmony that sings with the high voice.
Crazy Bone.
Yeah, Crazy Bone. Met him a few times.
Yep. I met him. Like, we got to meet a bunch, like Scarface, Crazy Bone. Waka Flocka played Riot Room when I worked there, which was crazy. Like,
oh yeah, you probably saw all sorts of crazy.
dude, not even beyond hip hop. Like the Sword. Like, I remember the Sword playing, and I worked the stage security, which was chill at all those shows. That place was kind of an entity because we would have the Sword would be playing inside, and then outside would be some like local, like straight up like gangbanger rappers, and the two crowds would intermingle, zero problems.
Yeah.
It was the wildest thing ever, dude. But like being able to like stand from here to the corner of the table, and I'm standing next to the bass player of the Sword going, these guys probably shouldn't even be playing here. The Glass Animals, like I got to, they played 2 shows. I had no idea I'm such a bonehead at the time. Like I was on this, like I only listen to underground rock and roll. I don't give a fuck about anything. I was like low key because of the other things I was doing in my life. And I remember these dudes played and everybody's like, the 96.5, the buzz was there and they're like, the whole bar sold out. And I'm like, what in the? It was just like some shitty like radio pop music. And I was like, who are these guys?
My girlfriend at the time drugged me to a Foster the People show in Long Beach. They had a residency at this Detroit bar in Long Beach right before they dropped their album that was like an immediate hit. But yeah, same deal. I'm like, these guys aren't bad. I'll buy a shirt.
Yeah.
And then, that was like the Pumped Up Kicks, that song from like 2007 or 8 or whatever. So this was like 4 months before that, but the same kind of vibe. I was like, who are these people?
Well, these guys were already huge. They were like recording a record, and somehow Timmy knew they in the Midwest somewhere, and somehow somebody knew they just wanted to play a small show somewhere, and somebody from the radio got. I don't know the details, but I remember it was the guys in the band, one chick that was like their tour manager, and then their normal manager, and then the chicks at the bar like, hey Tyler, why don't you take them over to the other bar? And I'm like, all right, like, you guys want to go to the other bar? So I had this 73 Chevy van, like, so to see me, like, you live in the town your whole life, in Midtown.
Right.
I drive this, like, very specific
Iconic.
old custom car, right? Like, people know who you are. They see you, right? So I got this band in my car, and we're driving, and they're all hanging out, and they're like, "Yes, what's your job?" I'm like, just a guy, you know? And every corner I hit, somebody's out the window, "Tyler, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And then everywhere we go, and then, like, halfway there, this dude goes, "Who in the fuck are you, man?" And I went, "Dude, I literally just am a bouncer. Like, I just work at the bar." And I'm like, I just know everyone because this is it's a small town, you know? And they're like, "Okay, cool." Those were some of the wildest people I've ever been around. One of the dudes was, like, up at the BP on Broadway doing smelling salts with all the crackheads out front, and, like, they were, like, continually wanting coke. They would still, like, hit me up.
Pre-fentanyl
days. But they would hit me up when they were in town still, even after I got sober, because my number was the same. Like, "Dude, you come to our show?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I don't like your band, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see your band play.
I don't like
you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome dudes, but I don't need to go see that. I don't need to go see you at Sprint Center." But I know Tubers, like, Tubers went and saw them at the Sprint Center and hung out with them. They're cool dudes. They're really cool guys. But it was just, you meet all these people, and when you're in that environment, I learned very quickly, like, no matter who I meet, like, you're just a dude.
Yes.
Like, I'm not to say I'm not impressed, but, like, I'm not like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, the moments that have happened is, like, for me, is like people in the car industry who undoubtedly, some of the people watching this will know, but, like, I got to meet some of, like, the legends of, like, custom car building in my 20s, going to car shows and doing things. And those are times when you're just like,
Is that moments like that are probably, or, you know, maybe why you still are so passionate about it today? You know,
oh,
to
yeah.
get that fuel at that age when you still have the energy and drive, you know, and, like, time, you know, and
oh, dude, I have things, like, from people that, like, it still blows my mind, the people I've gotten to meet in my life, and just, it's always just been a thing, like, another experience, you know what I mean? But also, I realized working at the bar, what it taught me, being around those people, was like, oh, if you just don't treat anyone any differently than I would a normal person. Like, I just treat everyone exactly the same.
Yep.
And because of that, I always, like, it
You're
always
good.
seemed, it seemed like, like, I learned, like, oh, you'll be cool and you can meet these people, and then it's whatever, and then you move on. You know what I mean?
Here's the other thing too. If you just shoot everyone the same, what you get back from them, say they're an asshole. Well, if you're trying to play up some, like, weird character to get to know some famous person and they're a dick to you, then that's kind of on you because you came at them weird. But
right.
To yourself and they're a dick, then you can, for the rest of your life, be like, that person is a dick, and I can prove it.
Yeah, I told the thing about Rollins, but my sister still hasn't told me the full story. I forgot it, but Rollins, like, spit on her or something, and that was the only reason. I was like, oh, that's the coolest dickhead move I've ever seen. But I've never had a bad experience, dude. Even in my teenage years, I worked as a stagehand for Pipeline for Jeff Fortier, and the Misfits came, and I had to park the buses. And then I'm like 17.
You need to write down all the bands that you've seen.
Oh, dude, I don't even know if I could. There's, like,
just start a list.
Dude, the first time I ever, at 16, the first time I had a woman's vagina in my face, in my face, was sitting on the floor of the Granada Theater with my brother-in-law at the time, who was my sister's first husband. We were working together, and the Lords of Acid were playing, and one of the chicks came up, and basically, like, somebody's gonna watch this, like, you were sexually assaulted, but like, the chick just came up,
kind of sounds.
yeah. She came up, and they're, like, European, you know, so they're like, this is, I mean, dude, we're talking 1999, 2000, 99, 2000, And she walked up and they were like, "Oh yeah, Tyler, he's only 16." And she's like, she just walked over to me, lifted up her mini skirt, no panties, grabbed my head and just jammed it in her crotch, and then just walked off. Like, what the? And then everybody was like, "What the fuck, dude?" Like, wow, did this just happen?
You
I'm
get
like,
VIP pass?
yeah. No, this was before the show. Like, we were setting up, we were like they had this crazy display, so we would have to build the merch stuff up for the bands.
Okay.
So we were like building shit for the show, and I was just sitting on the floor putting something together. And I don't know if all the guys had like told them to put her up to it, or she might have just taken it upon herself.
If they did, good for them.
Good for them.
Great friends.
Dude, they were never, again, people in this town will say bad things about Jeff 48. I cannot. That dude, for me being a 16 and 17-year-old kid working for him, he treated me like I was his kid. And there was times where, like, we did a festival and kids that didn't like me from my high school were there. It was Tattoo the Earth Fest. And I remember someone hitting me, punched me as we drove by on a golf cart. I was with Jeff. Jeff just stopped and went, "Did that guy just hit you?" And I went, "Yeah." And he got out and just beat the shit out of like 4 people from my hometown. And then got back on and goes, "I don't think they'll be messing with you anymore." And I was just like, what the fuck?
No, sir.
Again, like,
That's
just a wild thing. And then there's still people that were around then that I seen Jeff not long ago, and then Rob Holland was around then. That's how I met Stevie Cruz, was from hanging out in Lawrence when I was a teenager and working shows.
See, I always went in the 90s, it was all the punk and like ska bands. But
Yeah.
1059 The Laser, that was my like, shit. And then they would do free shows at the Granada on Sunday nights. And it would be, primarily punk and 50-50 punk and like ska. This is like 97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
Somewhere
No, I was there.
right around in there. But, God, dude, I felt really blessed to have grown up so close to Lawrence and being able to just dart out there. I mean, I remember going out, The Urge, that was
The
my,
Urge.
like that, like,
That dude used to hang out at the Granada all the time. He was always hanging out when I worked shows, the lead singer of the band. He would just be hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a teenager. They were great to us. They would just, you want pictures? Sure. We were the kids that were like by the tour
Dude,
bus. Like, sign
the
this
Gadgets.
yeah.
G Coffee. Like, I just got. I was
Now,
at
I only went
Sister
to G
Ann's.
Coffee once, and it was for a Diesel Boy drum and bass
Oh, nice.
show in like 2000,
Diesel Boy.
2001.
God, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
It's a great album. Or
Yeah.
it's a double disc that he was promoting. Those were CDs back then.
Yeah. Double disc.
No, I this town's like, there's a lot of talent and a lot of creativity and that lives here. That's been really surprising since I've been back. It'll be 2 years in May.
Yeah.
And last night it was really cool. I saw some old friends that were in town doing a show, and they were just like, "Dude, you look fucking awesome." They were very complimentary. They're like,
Right.
"You look good. You seem fucking better than ever." I'm like, "Yeah, I am, man. I'm doing
Yeah.
shit that I love to do. I've got more time to do, my own kind of shit, or my own stuff, whatever that may be."
Back in the day, you used to have to go to certain places to do certain things. You would have to go to LA to be a comic.
Right.
You would have to go to LA to work in movies, or New York if you wanted to do this, or here if you want to do that. All of that is erased now, especially since the coronavirus stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's become a free-for-all to where
LA's dying. New York's where you go if you want to do stand up, and you can get up multiple times easy every night.
Yeah.
Now we got Austin. That's just kind of like LA light.
Right,
No.
but also it's like with any form of art. Like, I was reading a thing where Danny McBride, like, they basically, everyone that's a part of his production team, they all just they were shooting Righteous Gemstones. He's like, we just decided there's no reason for us to live in LA because we literally don't shoot you don't shoot in LA.
No.
Like, so if I need to fly there to audition, I can, or have a meeting. But other than that, like, I could just live in at Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, and like love it. You know what I mean?
Well, and then I mean, whatever the percentage, it's got to be 5 to 10% of the industry is in Georgia, Atlanta
Right.
now because of all the tax breaks that.
In The Walking Dead, The Walking Dead kind of set
Walking
that
Dead,
off, and
well, the Ozark, they filmed
Yeah.
most of that north of Atlanta.
right.
But yeah,
I gotta pee real
yeah,
quick.
no
Give me
worries.
1 second. That's my bad, people.
But coming back to Kansas City, though, especially working at Lucky Boys is fantastic. Just the creative energy there, like yourself included, just the people that are hanging out there.
Right.
A lot of people doing some pretty incredible things. And there's just a ton of talent. Like everywhere you look, you're like, oh, that guy's amazing at drumming. And like, oh,
Right.
I didn't know you knew how to build cars with your bare hands and a wrench. Good. You
Yeah.
know. So that was nice because I was worried. Like I run at a certain level of just, and I don't want to say creativity, but just I scare like a normal person. Like you go to the suburbs, like I'm gonna talk. I talk to people in public sometimes,
Right.
You know, and like I'm a bit abrasive to most people.
I'm the same.
But I was really happy to find those same people here
Yeah.
in town. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not going to be questioned if I say, you know, this is my thing on this or this joke or whatever it may be. But it's
Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself.
yeah, or like,
in
oh,
our,
where's that guy coming from? It's like, oh no, okay, we understand where that guy's coming from. Or, oh, he does that. He's probably just working on a bit. Or, you know,
Right.
But yeah, not having to explain yourself.
So how long were you in LA?
I'd say Southern California for about 17 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what finally made you decide to come back? Just
It was the lockdown in California was so ridiculous. I was working downtown during the day, catering to Hollywood movie, TV stuff. So
Okay.
we were an essential worker. But they just legalized crime, like just walking through secondhand crack smoke, walking to and from work every morning. I work
right.
downtown LA.
Yeah.
So just stepping over people, and I only had one encounter. I did like this tree dodge. This guy, like, because I'd get there early. Like, I started parking in the garage because I was like, I'm not walking 6 blocks at 5 a.m. in downtown anymore. And just because that's the worst hour for the tweak people.
right, because right before they're going to bed.
Dude. And so, but just seeing that and just it was not being able to do anything for a whole year plus. I mean, so we left in May of 21. So it was like at that point where it's at 13 months of the pandemic, 14 months in, and it was still just no hoops on the basketball goals. Everyone's an asshole if you don't have a mask on, or just all that stuff. Just to like,
Yeah, still deep into it.
Yeah, and so, but then the crime and just, I didn't see any of my friends. I got to go hang out with a bunch of comics a few times right before, when everyone was finally comfortable with it. Right before I left, which was nice. Went to a last Dodgers game, got a foul ball the week
Sick.
before I left with a bunch of comedians.
So, but up to the pandemic, you stayed doing comedy the whole time.
Yeah. And I'd go out on the road, and by 2000, I stopped working at the Comedy Store in 2000, and I think it was the fall of 2011, right before 2012. Yeah, and so from 2012 on, I had enough material. I'd go out and headline like small clubs or like get a feature spot, maybe at an improv or bigger name club, or headline maybe like a B or C club, which is like a
Right.
mid-market, or like maybe a major market, but like not the main marquee club.
Right.
And that was great, just getting in the car, for weeks at a time, just going all over,
Yeah.
doing shows, one-nighters, and then mixed in with some weekends. And what I would do is I would say I'd get a gig in like Spokane at a club, and I'd be like, oh, I know a couple people here, they got a booker here, and then on my way up from LA, maybe I'd do Reno on the way back, maybe I'll call that club owner.
Right.
And then, well, if I get that second weekend and I've got 5 days, well, I could drive down to Carson City, maybe do a one-nighter there on a Wednesday. So 3 or 4 or 5 months out, I'd be like kind of placing these chips all around and not backtracking. I hate backtracking, so
Right.
it would always be just
like
I would do a big loop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so,
And that during that time, were you opening? When did you start opening for Polly?
that was basically just kind of randomly,
Right.
more or less. Originally, the 10 years ago, he knew I was from Kansas City, and so that's what he was like. Oh, bro, come out and do the hometown thing. And I was like, awesome. Yeah, I look like a celebrity. I know someone
Right.
famous, and then this last time was just Polly. I live in Kansas City now. Really? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, cool. You want to do spots? Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Sick.
And then I can't even off the top of my head think of any other shows I've. Oh, that's not true. Yeah, they're all in Missouri. Actually, we did shows. I forgot about this one. Steve Simone is a really
Yep.
really good comedy store comic. Paulie and me did some shows in the Ozarks
Okay.
at a club down there. And that was 2013, about 10 years ago, probably.
Awesome.
So really, now that I think about it, all my stuff I've done on the road has been in the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
With
That's cool though.
With Paulie.
Yeah.
And that all came about, like, I don't even know if he'd ever seen me perform, but he's like, bro, you're part of the family, and just the Comedy Store thing, and which is I didn't even realize kind of what it is, but ultimately, you go to war with people, and I love making that analogy because it upsets people so much. It's like, it's not war, no one's dying. I've seen people die on stage.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Never come back.
Never come back.
Never come back. Like, just abandon the kids, just move away. It's so,
Whoa.
just like end it all. But it just, what the hell, what the fuck was I talking about right there?
Going to war.
I lost my train of thought. This is the best part of the interview right here, when you get just rambling on.
Yeah, when you're just rambling, then you're like, fuck, I forgot what I was talking about. You're talking about it's like going to war.
Yeah, the battle, but it was something before.
Oh, the family, how the Comedy Store.
Yes,
the family.
thank you. But it was so bad, and there's so much trauma in that, and
Right.
good memories, and all that stuff. And so all these years go by, and like last night, I saw some friends and one was like, "I've known you 20 years." I'm like, technically 19, but yeah, you're right. That does go way back then. And then you realize like that there's a lot that bonds you, good memories, bad memories, and everything else. But and then you realize, like, what, there's only 100 or so people that were there for that,
Right, and that's
that are gonna
the
understand
thing.
that
Like,
story, get
your
that
peer
reference.
group is your peer group. You know what I mean? And so then there's people that are included in that like everybody does different things, and everybody like there's people that I'll be with someone and I'll see someone, they're like, wait, you know them? And I'm like, I've known them like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then like people don't realize like how close Dan and I are, and they'll bring Dan up. I'm like, Dan's like one of the
Oh, so you guys go back to like the mid-aughts, or like?
we go back to like 15, 16 years ago.
There you go.
In our 20s, I met all them guys when I was in my 20s. Keenan, Justin. Like, dude, I was selling Molly. And
Oh, so you probably knew a lot of good people.
I was hanging out at the Union when they all worked there.
Right, that's right.
And one night I had my liquor card because I worked at another club for a while, but it was like really, I worked at a nightclub that was mostly partaked in by local criminals, drug dealers, street people.
Right.
And the owner of said place was alleged to have been a federal informant. So I quit working for them because they started asking me a lot of weird questions like, hey, how do you know all these people? Like, you're this weird white dude. Like, why do you know all these black people? And I'm like, they're just my friends. And like, they're just people I know.
Yeah.
And like, I know
Why do you
everyone.
need to know that?
Like, yeah, why do you
why
care?
Do you have a notebook?
Well, why do these are some serious people, and they, like, all the serious people come up and like show you love, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm a good person. I don't know what to tell you guys, So then I went and talked to my buddies. They're like, quit working for that guy. But I was sitting in the Union one night, and Justin's freaking out, and he's like, I need a fucking door guy. And somebody's like, Tyler's got a liquor cart. He's like, you're going to work the door. So that's how Skylar and I became friends.
Oh, no kidding.
Skylar and I worked the door. Skylar would like notoriously like, man, Dude couldn't dodge a punch back then to save his life. He got hit. Me and Steve, Canadian Steve.
Just getting sucker punched.
Oh, just getting sucker punched by people.
Because he's like the smallest guy.
Dude, me and Skylar would have contests on who could get the most fake IDs. I mean, we'd have stacks back then. Like, we were good at it. But me and Steve.
Look how many nights I ruined.
Yeah,
At least
look
36.
how many teen. But that was serious business, dude.
Yeah.
When I always took it serious because it was like, hey, like I try to explain to everyone else, like
EBC or whatever was the alcohol beverage.
Yeah, but also like at being the bar, like the bartenders might not like it, but the dude that owned the place, if he was a decent human being, like Timmy and them would really respected the way we ran the door shit at the riot room because we like, hey, problems. We don't need any problems. Like you don't need like kids in bars ain't good. If you ain't old enough to be here, sorry, dog, this ain't your time. If you get past this, good on you. But you keep it chill. Because I grew up hanging out in bars working for Pipeline. Like,
oh, okay.
It wasn't I was on the other end of it and could see, like, without the right people around you, it could go bad. You know what I mean? But, man, yeah, Skylar, Steve, I don't know how many. It was crazy, dude. There'd be 4 or 5, it would be like the streets of Westport all the bars would empty out and you'd be out front like,
I remember.
What are we doing
I remember it was like right when the Power and Light, I come back and visit, and yeah, it was before they started putting up the metal detectors. Yeah. But I think that's a thing. It seems like it comes and goes.
Yeah. Westport's dead. People say it's not, but there's nothing there anymore. It's like there's like chain places, and at that time that was like. There's so many venues, and it was like just full of like creative people and artists and shows and DJs, and like there's all this music and art happening there. And now I really think it's all gone. Like it's all.
There's a tin roof if you want to get your country on.
The minute they finally got rid of the last couple holdouts, and one was the Riot Room, and the other was the Westport Saloon. And then now I don't even know if there's a place where you can go see live music in Westport.
At the Tin Roof or whatever they fly people in from Nashville.
Oh, there's a country bar there now?
Yeah.
Exactly. Think about that. There's a country bar in Westport.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is.
People are going to like get pissed and tell me I'm full of shit, but like the music scene it's kind of growing back up right now because it's like anything, it gets lost and then it takes time to find a new home within the city. But dude, there's a lot of shows that don't come here. And I'm noticing people playing Wichita now. And it's like, if you're playing Wichita over Kansas City, like somebody needs, like everyone should take heed of that and like realize like, yo, weird. Wichita is getting the shows that used to come here.
Or even we play St. Louis and then go to Denver. It's like, why are you playing St. Louis? Like I text
St. Louis is a big city, but also it's like they fly right over us. We're a flyover state now for everything.
Well, my friends had a great time. They were like, we love this place. I told them, lock your shit up in St. Louis. Who knows? They're going to Memphis after that. So I was like, just good luck with that shit. But no, they.
Oh, that's where the Bad Friends tour was going? Yeah. What a great run. Like, those are two wild cities. This is kind of a wild city though too, Simi, but it's chilling out again.
My wife likes it. She's not from here, and
where's your wife from?
Phoenix originally,
okay.
And so she's survived 2 winters now that we've been here. Loves the city, but it'll sneak up on her house. She's like, "Have we the number 8 in murders?" I'm like, "You gotta, yeah, we are. It's just because everything's so close. It seems like the murders are close." But technically, 3.5 miles. There's a lot of blocks. It's not really down.
Well, also, I've always felt like the streets here do a pretty good job of like keeping it in the streets. It's not like people see that and they're like random people are getting murdered. Well, no, it's not really like. Yes, that does happen, but it's like that because of the criminal, like, gangs and crime. We're on, like, the gateway from Mexico. Like, there's a lot of things that happen here that people don't realize. Like, it's like a weird thing where, like, they tried so hard to take down the mob, but then when they took down the mob, it was like free for all for anyone to become a criminal. Like, all these people could just do whatever the fuck they wanted then, right? Like, and that was in like a lot of cities. And then now, like, this is like heavy gang area in the 90s, when like in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I was listening to this guy speak about how it's like, yeah, whatever happened to the Bloods and Crips? And it's like, well, they're still kind of here, but like they got killed off because the cartels have their own street gangs, and they run the drug trade.
It's a different thing.
So why would they, like, they basically came in and eliminated African American street gangs.
Well, you know, I knew a couple like Crips, and they were comedians, you know.
Right.
And it was just more like, this is our family, you know, obviously it's the Crips gang, but it was just like, they're not involved in any sort of smuggling or internet.
Well,
like,
this is it. It's like anything, right? Motorcycle clubs, street gangs. It's basic, no different than like the people you're doing your comedy shows with, right? It's just a group of friends who have banded together, and like they're not. It's not they like if you watch shit about gangs, they make it seem like this is the hierarchy, and then there's this guy. Ain't no street gang having no fucking meeting.
Yeah.
Of everybody being like, well, guys, this week we're gonna go rob Johnny's Liquor. No, it's a bunch of people that have each other's backs and they do business together.
Yeah.
So like, if you and I both dealt drugs, like maybe you had kilos of cocaine and I sold ounces of cocaine, and there'd be another guy we were friends with that sold bags of cocaine to people on the street, right? And that would be the way it ran down. We're probably all hanging out together, and we might even be claiming a set together. But we're not sitting around with each other being like, oh, we're going to do this. And it's just people doing things together, or, you know, this guy, your buddy, might steal cars, and then this guy might do that. But nobody's like having these like set up, like, it's very unstructured. Like, a gang is a very unstructured thing.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of teenagers that have a tendency to commit some violent crimes, and not necessarily even randomly, like to your point.
Yeah.
You know, like I knew someone that was murdered here in Kansas City. Well, he's also, you know, buying drugs at 4:30 in the morning, you know.
Right.
And it's like from a stranger.
Yeah.
And so, like, that shit happens when you do that.
Dude, everybody has their moment, man. Yeah. Everybody has a moment where you realize, like, oh, nobody gets rich, and you either end up in prison or you end up in jail if you continue, or dead.
Yeah.
You either end up dead or locked up if you continue down this road. And if you have a little money, it all goes away at some point. Like, the number of like people who like really made it dealing drugs is like, you could count them on your hands. And most of them had to like hide a bunch of money and then spend half of their life in prison to get out and then
benefit from the
money and the legend of their shit, you know?
That's what's great about the internet now too. It's all like these criminals have come back and like, here's my story, and now they can actually make money on it.
Oh, and, like, dude, like Sammy the Bull Gravano has a YouTube channel. Yeah. Like, it's like crazy, and I'm thinking about that. I've been
just talking. No, you take that, you dunk it in the water.
I watched
4, and then you bring it out.
I watched this documentary that this guy made about this rapper named King Von.
Okay.
And he like lays it out, and he's like, hey, I think this guy
would... 2.5 hour documentary?
It's like 3 hours long.
I think it popped up on my feed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend it. But it's basically, it's called, Is This Hip Hop's First Serial Killer? And, man, you watch it and you're going, the guy, he's dead. He got murdered. But it's pretty wild. It's like,
yeah,
and this guy talking about how, like, hey, man, how did this guy this whole time brag about being a killer? Everyone knew he was a killer, but then people like Drake are praising him. Yeah. And it's like, it's really weird. And it got me thinking about like all these other people. It's like, yo, why does anybody even give a fuck? Like, it's a weird culture, man, where it's like, it makes you like, what's cool about murder? Like, and that's just like an older me thought, and I was thinking this, like, back in the day, it was like a thing where, like, it meant you held it down. You were about your business. But what were you like? What did you kill this person over? You know what I mean? Like, for real. And also, like, that's not tight. Like, there's
Right.
nothing cool about that.
Now
So
you
like,
got
why
kids
are we?
maybe without a father, you got parents without a child, all the
Yeah.
pain and suffering that comes.
And we can say, like, oh, well, this guy was engaged, like we were saying, but still, at the end of the day, it's very senseless shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a mindset that you get stuck in, and you get, like, people get raised in it, and then they repeat these same actions because that's all they know, or that's all they see.
I'm a firm believer we're running out of grandmothers to raise kids.
Yeah.
So what happened was, so like in the 70s, my generation, for example, like one of my friends, his grandmother raised him. And so his mom was out of the picture. And then, years go by, mom comes back in the picture, but never really raised him. But
Right.
then, like, say that, like, say he has a kid, now that grandma who never raised her own kids is like taking care of like that kid's kids, trying to do her best, but she never really did that herself originally.
Right.
And that's now it's just parenting is just getting diluted. And people
For
do
sure.
try their best, but like, back with the cooking thing, if you don't know the little secrets or the tips, and it becomes a lot more, difficult.
And a
to
grandma
do.
treats you different than your mom does.
Yeah. And I say grandma, to your situation, like with the crime and senseless murders, like you just don't know when you're 14, you have a gun, you just don't understand.
He doesn't put it. Yeah.
You don't understand what
My nephew got murdered a few years ago. He was 19.
Yeah, you just
And so, like, that happened, and it was like really fucked up, and it was fucked up for me because I had been clean for like 8 years. I went down pretty fast and pretty hard, and he idolized like the old me.
okay.
Like, he thought the old Tyler, like,
The one with the big story from last night, or the you're never gonna believe what happened guy, the excitement,
the beating people up,
Yeah.
running the streets, robbing people, all that shit. Like, he thought that shit was cool, and he got around the wrong people, dude. And that's what happened. He got a fucked up deal, but got murdered. And then after that, like, it was like hard to not go, oh, well, this is my fault. And because you always blame yourself for shit like that. But then even after the fact, to like watch is like the kids ended up getting off, basically a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. I happen to know one of the kids, like, I've known his parents forever. I didn't even, like, to your point about parenting, I didn't even know this guy had a kid.
Yeah.
And I've known him like almost 20 years.
that's-
And I didn't even know this guy had a kid, right?
Yeah.
But like,
And there you go.
right. And then to find out that like these guys are writing rap songs about killing him and all this shit, and it's like, yo, dude, like,
Yeah.
I really hope.
And if the police around here are, I mean, I'm sure the good ones try their best, but they're some like generationally crooked.
Oh,
Horrific.
and this happened in Overland Park, is where he got murdered at. But here in Wyandotte County,
Yeah.
oh, like, people get mad at me all the time, but it's fuck these cops. Like,
Yeah.
there's two dudes I've met that I would consider them solid people, and that's because I've had dealings with them, and you can see like they are a part of the community and they're respected by most people, and I see that, and that's cool. But man, I'm sort of on like, when you get locked up, you got to show people, even in jail, you got to show people what you're there for. Like, anywhere you go.
Right.
In counties, this happened to me. What are you here for? show me your paperwork when you get it. And when you get your paperwork of your discovery, there's somebody wherever you are that you're basically beholden to show them this is what I did and this is why I'm here. And then from there they decide if whatever you've done is, which is another fucked up thing. Like, who are we to judge? This guy's like, oh, it's okay if you murdered somebody, but not okay if you raped somebody. It's like, well, we're all pieces of shit. We're in the same, in fucking, we're locked up. No. Yeah, we've all done fucked up things.
This guy over here is kicking puppies, man. Look at his paperwork.
But, fuck, where was I going with that? I don't even remember. I had a John moment there.
It happens. Well, because your nephew in Overland Park, and then I brought.
The cops here.
I brought up the cops.
Yeah. The cops here. So like, I'm on a level that like, yo, if you want me to respect you and you're a cop, then you bring me some paperwork that shows me where you ratted on another cop to your superior officers. Because to tell me that you never witnessed anybody do some fuck shit or do something that they shouldn't be doing as a cop would be a fucking lie.
Yeah.
Because you guys should all have these, and they should be using that as the tool to like discipline people, but also help teach them. Like, it's like if your kid doesn't have any, if you've never been punished, then you don't know. Like me when I ended up going straight to parole because of a program that they started in Kansas. But like the short time I was in CCA, which is like the private prison, but it's like a jail for federal inmates, and the county here rents a wing. Like the state rents a wing there for overflow.
Like a horrible idea.
It was horrible. And that time there was enough for me to go like, yo, I ain't about this shit, and this shit ain't tight, and I'm cool. I can retire with a winning record as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But without that, I never would have stopped, dude. I so many times I got in trouble, and it was like, it was nothing to like get out of it. It was nothing to get out of it, dude. I've gotten pulled over before with so many drugs and weapons on me, and somehow talked my way out of it in this county. 3 blocks down the road, I got pulled over once with a gun, pills, meth, all kinds of shit on me. And the cops took the drugs and let me go.
I mean...
And like, that's this county, dude.
That reminds me when people are like, I should have got a DUI, you know, and I tricked the cop. You know, when people are drunk and they have their story about how they evaded, they didn't know. It's like, they knew.
They just didn't give a fuck.
They didn't want to write the
paperwork.
Those
guys didn't want to write the paperwork because they wanted to take whatever I had because they're dirty-ass cops. I 100% think that Roger Galou, I heard tales of that guy on the streets.
That's what...
And, like, people don't even know about it. We went to school with one of that dude's nephews. Like, that guy lived out in Western Wyandotte. Like, he lived out in, like, Edwardsville when I was a kid. Like... That guy was a fucker, man. And like,
you heard like trickle down stories.
I've heard stories from like people like, yo, this dude did this to like my family.
Yeah.
Like
that was the big story when I moved to town. Viewer, you gotta have to look this up.
Roger Galewski, shitbird ass detective.
It was like
30... I think 4 people now have been released for prison for wrongful. That guy was setting people up. He was like blackmailing people, doing crazy shit. And dudes, the Innocence Project is getting people out left and right in Kansas that was doing 14 years for some shit that they weren't even remotely a part of.
Yeah.
Remotely a part of.
It's pretty sad.
And this guy's letting the real people walk, knowing who did it. You know what I mean?
And those same people in jail have the same kids that are at home without a mother or father, as if they had been killed.
Right. And there's this reporter who did like a report about it and basically pieced together where like all these people that snitched on some of these cases were like, some of them were the women that they were finding in Brush Creek, or they'd find them dead. And like, they're starting to piece together like, that's the other piece, is like, they think this dude was killing people. Like, there's another piece, like, he's getting charged for this criminal misconduct stuff. But even back in the day, like, dude, my homeboys, the lawyer that they had was this dude, Charles Ball. And he's since been, I was notified that he's no longer, I tried to hire him. They're like, he got disbarred, bro. And he potentially is in prison. I'm not too sure on that. But, like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, but that dude would tell you like, yo, don't get hemmed up with that dude. Like don't get hemmed up with Galupski, man. The shit ain't no good. Dude, there was wild shit going on back in the day, dude. Like
Yeah. No, I would get.
there was cops dressing up like the feds and like robbing drug dealers and shit, leaving people tied up in houses. It was wild, and you don't ever hear about this stuff. And like
Until now. That's why we're
until
watching.
now, yeah. But I take it as a blessing that I've been able to just be an authentic person, being my true self, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
It has granted me access. In some weird way, I feel like I'm like an anthropologist that like studies like groups of people. Some people call it being a chameleon, but I don't change who I am. Like I don't go into the hood and like
natural sociology.
yeah, right. But like I've been a part of like. I guess cultures, like different cultures that like I'm really appreciative of it. And like people, like I don't understand certain things that people, because to me like the cops don't fuck on you because of the color of your skin. They fuck on you because they can fuck on you. And I've been a part of it. I've been pulled over. I've been investigated by the FBI. I left town because of it. Like I had a cop that was just Officer Maggie, man. This KCK cop every fucking time this dude saw me, bro. I'd be driving my Caprice wagon down Parallel, and this dude would have somebody else pulled over, see me, and I already knew. I'd have to throw my blunt out the window, and I just pulled my car over.
Yeah.
Like I was riding dirty forever.
Yeah.
Never had tags, never had insurance. I was switching plates off shit. That dude literally harassed me so much that I had to be legit to where it was just like I'd be pulled over with it out the window and he'd be like, I'm gonna get you one of these days. It's like, yeah, whatever. Whatever, bro. And then one of the guys in my band, his put a bug in his stepdad was a sergeant in the Western Division, and he put a bug in his ear, and a couple other people knew what was going on, and they kind of like were like, yo, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And so they ended up doing, and to come to find out, I wasn't the only person that guy was doing that to, and he was very swiftly removed from the police force, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Because historically, again, super corrupt.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that today, like, that's what breeds, listening to that thing about that King Von guy, and he was from Chicago, and me thinking, like, well, the only way your city gets this fucked is if there's corruption in your local government. And that's from that Lori Lightfoot lady down. All I could think about was like, ooh, like 10 years from now, we are going to have some like awesome documentary about Chirac and about how the mayor was corrupt, the cops were corrupt, everybody was corrupt.
All
you
Illinois
know?
politicians.
Yeah.
They all do jail time.
Yeah.
The mayors of Chicago. I mean, it's like maybe governors.
There's this great series called Crime Town, podcast series, and they did one. It was about Buddy Cianci, who was like the mayor of Rhode Island, who later became a governor after becoming a felon. It's a wild story. But then they went to Detroit and they covered Kwame Kilpatrick, who I think Trump gave him a pardon, but he was in federal prison for corruption. Dude, if you watch that White Boy Rick documentary,
yes.
Like even the mayor back then, like Detroit is the only reason Detroit's fucked up is because of the corrupt government. All these like always a corrupt government.
Yeah, and maybe like most of the industry leaving town didn't help either. But then the corrupt government is supposed to take that money, put it back in. It's like seems like the worse the town is, the more corruption there's going to be.
Right.
I guess that's
what I'm saying. Like the only way it gets that bad, right? like the only way you can have like the only way you're number 8 in murders, right, is if you have corruption in the government. That's the only way. That's the only way your city's that dangerous. It doesn't happen any other way. It can't. Like somebody is paying people to allow things to happen. Like. Yeah. And listen, if you're out there and you're going, oh, Tyler's crazy, this is crazy. I've literally seen police officers in this county back in the day pull up to dope houses, get out, get handed an envelope, and get back in their car. And no one ever getting arrested, no one ever going to jail, no one ever getting in trouble. And I mean, I seen some wild shit,
Just
dude.
straight Hollywood style.
Just
Like,
the things that you think aren't real, that would never happen. All that shit's based on reality. It came from somewhere,
yeah.
and it happens, man. I seen dudes dealing drugs to sheriff's deputies when I was in Wyandotte County Jail. I saw sheriff's deputies bringing in the dope, and the guy telling me, "Oh, this is I sell this guy heroin out on the street. He don't have no choice but to do what I say." And me going, "What?" And he's like,
Damn.
"That guy's a junkie." Like, and it's like, yeah, like there's that video going around of that KCK cop, all fucked up. That dude's twacked out of his mind, man. Have you seen that?
No.
Dude, they showed up to this house. This dude is fucked up. And then they're claiming, oh, he's not. There's not. It's like, nah, man, just be
twitching and just like.
Dude, he's like high on meth or something.
Yeah,
he looks
yeah,
like a
yeah.
crackhead.
Yeah.
It looks like a crackhead beat up a cop and stole his outfit. Yeah. Like you can tell something's been going on. The uniform's too big and shit. And it's like, come on, man.
It fit before he started smoking 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And he's just dropped to 35 pounds.
Yeah, man. It's
ready
crazy.
to move down to the lake.
Yeah. It ain't. Nah, it ain't. I'll never buy into that. And maybe that's just me being jaded because of what I used to do, and I was on the opposite side. But, like, again, until they start producing me documentation of you doing your duty of, you know, oh, I watched Larry beat the shit out of a guy. He probably shouldn't have done that. I need to tell somebody about that. Instead of being like, well, Larry just tripped out, so we're not going to bring this up ever again.
Well,
like,
it's
no.
Wednesday,
yeah, it is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny's drunk on the job again, but it's okay because he's not driving. I'm driving. It's like, nah, man. You got to, like,
Yeah.
somebody was talking about how, oh, those 3 KCK cops got shot. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, you're out here playing cops at, like, yo, again, if anyone dies, I'm not down with it. Like, quit killing each other. But also, like, you signed up to play cops and robbers on both sides. Like, if your enemy wasn't going to kill you, you better went out every day thinking the cops were if you were in the streets. That's how I thought.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's going to try to kill me. There's 2 options, you know? But, man, they make such a big deal about if a cop dies, but they make zero deal out of when they kill people. And it blows my mind.
Well, that's changing.
Yeah.
But that's not every case either. You know,
Well, no. We make a big deal about
Right.
when they kill people.
Okay, I see.
They do not.
Yes,
They still, they show zero remorse.
I just, the empty the clip thing is strange. I'm like,
Dude, it,
you need all 12.
Yeah, man. It's like, they'll fucking shoot a person, they'll be dead, and then they'll shoot them 47 more times. It's like, you guys just wanted to kill someone. Like, that's how it looks. Like, you just, at that point, like, it's crazy for our safety. Well, it's not about your safety, man. Like, you took an unsafe job. Like, I don't, you know.
You're behind the engine.
There's a lot of people that do unsafe work. You know what I mean? Like, you chose that. You chose to put yourself in that position for whatever glory or, like, whatever purpose of, like, helping people. Some of them get in it for, but
I mean, they're just real people. I remember a cop coming into a comedy club and watching one of the comics was strangling one of the people in the front row, and then the cop was in the back, and then the shit got really real when he stopped strangling him.
yeah.
And then we were like, you got to go to the guy who got strangled because, you know, he was ruining the show. And then he popped up and saw the cop, and he was like, I want to press charges. That guy just attacked me, which had it not all true, but the cop just goes, all right, I don't know if we can be around here anymore. We don't want to, be in a situation like this.
Yeah.
And we were like, really? And then like we saw him a couple more times, but they would come back and be like, all right, guys, we better get going. We don't want to keep you guys from doing anything illegal back here. And
Oh, yeah.
but it was just kind of like, oh, they are real people. They just happen to like us because we're at like a club here on the Sunset Strip, and
Yeah.
they want a drink or a Red Bull or something.
Right.
They want something,
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
on break. They're not working.
Dude, when I was, forever, if I got something going on or I got a door, ain't no cop coming in, bro. For that reason, they changed the vibe, especially out here. It changes the vibe heavy. Like, we're putting on a little bike show at the end of summer, and there was talks about doing it at Wyandotte County Lake or one of the parks, but I won't have nothing to do with it at a place like that because it's all ran by the sheriff's department.
Oh, okay.
And they're just as bad as they're probably worse than the sheriff's department here is probably worse than fucking the KCK cops. You know what I mean? Quite honestly, they're all bad.
Are you staying in KCK when you move?
Oh yeah.
It's like you know the whole fucking makeup around here.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I know how to operate here.
Yeah.
I tried living in Midtown. My van got stolen. They wouldn't do shit. I had to go recover it myself. It was a whole ordeal.
Oh, when you were at Riot? When you were working at Riot?
No, this is like just over a year ago.
Okay.
I lived in this place for a year.
Oh, okay.
But I've been around KCK forever.
Right.
I decided to move over to 39th Street. It's the worst idea I ever had, man. The people sucked. The landlord sucked. Everybody was a pretentious asshole. Like, all the crackheads would come over there to rob you. And it's like, ain't nobody robbing my shit right here.
Yeah, I
Knock
did. I
on
was at
wood.
Mini Bar the other day, and I was outside. I was like, yeah, it has a crackish vibe. There's
Yeah.
just a lot of people walking up and down.
Yeah.
Like, going nowhere.
Junkie vibes,
Yeah.
dude. And there's junkies here. I mean, don't get me wrong. There used to be dudes squatting next door. It got wild. We had squatter summer last summer, and they're gone. But the new place we're living, like, it's up the road just a little piece, but it's like the neighborhood's. It's like
Whole
a
different-
flip flop,
yeah,
dude.
that's crazy.
It's like everything's nice and new.
And this city's great. I mean, we
Yeah.
love this city.
No, it's
we're just
awesome.
there.
I wouldn't change it. I got fucking Wyandotte County tattooed on my wrist. That's how much of a mark I am. But I just know how to operate. But also, I can't expect anything to change if I don't. What am I? If I leave?
That's a great, yeah.
You know, I'm just listening to somebody the other day tell me about lecturing me how I should move. You got your daughter now. Move out here just out south of town to like Johnson County. And I'm like, yo, you're sitting here telling me about how you got a damn ticket for having the gas tank sitting under your truck while you're fixing it for a couple days. Like, that doesn't fly in my world. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want any of that problem.
No, I don't want someone to notice I have a gas can under
Dude, I don't worry about what's going on in the world. I don't care for anyone to come to me and barter. I don't want to hear about a foreign country. I don't want to hear about something that's happened in California. I don't, if it's like some aggressive thing where you're going to lecture me on some ideology or something. The only thing I care about is here.
Yeah.
Because this is where I am. And what I've learned is that, like, I can buy the homeless guy across the street food every week when I go to the store. And then I know that I'm helping that guy out. I can help any of my neighbors. Like, I know the people's names around here. I get lectured all the time by people who are so into social justice, and they don't even know the people. 90% of them go, why would I know the guy that lives next door to me?
Yeah.
And I go, why the fuck wouldn't you?
It's like
You care so much about, you want everybody to see you caring,
Yeah.
but you don't actually help. You're not helping do nothing. Like, you're not doing anything here. Like, I live here. These are my people. Like, I'm not going to run out and, I mean, quite honestly, every time I drive, if I don't cooperate with these cops and I let them know. I was at the store, some guy was stealing 2 energy drinks, and the guy at the co-op, I'm like, hey bro, I'll just pay for it. And I know him. I was like, I'll buy the guy's stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. Don't fuck this dude up over 2 energy drinks.
Yeah,
That ain't going to help him. This guy needs rehab. He doesn't need county jail. And the cops wouldn't go for it because they had a cop in there that night, and he arrested the guy. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck, man? And I go get my shit, and I'm checking out, and the dude's staring at me, and I was like, you didn't have to do that. And he went, what? I was like, you didn't have to arrest that man. He goes, I know. And I'm like, you're fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? I was like, I could have talked to that guy. He's like, what does that mean? I was like, well, I live here. And I was like, I'm sure you live out on the west side of the county like the rest of the cops, which is cool. But, like, I live here, man. Like, I could have talked to that dude. Hell, I'd have offered to take him to a meeting or go buy him dinner just to talk to him. You know what I mean? But instead, you're going to take him, what, down to county? He's like, well, he'll be eating tonight. And I'm like, oh, cool, dude. I was like, you're such... It's like, man, that's your mentality, man.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck people, you know? And I just don't get it, dude. Like, I lived in a car. I can't... you know, crackheads are crackheads, but also they're people. Like, and I can't ever, dude, if somebody comes up to you and is like, can I get a ride? And I just ask them, like, where are you going? And, like,
yeah,
you know,
I'm getting some of that back. I lost most of that after.
Oh, I'm
5 or
sure
6
in
years.
Los Angeles you probably,
But it's nice,
yeah.
like, kind of like, okay, yeah. I still, people are like, can I get a cigarette? Nope. Like, I'm just hard no right there.
Yeah, I don't. They ask me all the time, and they see me. I'm like, do I look like a smoker? Like, I don't even smoke, bro. I'm good,
Yeah.
but no, good luck.
Yeah.
You want a jar of peanut butter or something?
Yeah.
Like,
but because when I first got out west, it was definitely like, oh my gosh, there's all these homeless people. It actually wasn't even that many now that I look back on it compared to nowadays.
Compared to now, yeah.
But then, after a couple of years, you just learn it just kind of becomes invisible.
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing, as far as trying to help anybody.
Yeah.
Or make your community better.
Yeah, again, dude, you can only care, like, people have it so miscrewed that you can't care about the entire world. I don't have to. I don't have to trouble myself with that. But what I can do is do my best to, like, make where I live as good as possible and try to show other people that, like, hey, like, you can go help a charity. You can do all these things and you don't even have to tell people about it. Like, you literally don't even have to tell anyone.
And it probably feels better,
dude,
if you don't.
I've done so much stuff in the car community, in the car culture realm, to where it's just been embedded to me that you do this stuff as I'm poor, right? Like, I'm making good money currently. I make okay money, and that's the first time that it's been this. The way it is right now is it's the best it's been in my entire adult life, and it was always the way I could help and give back was by working a show, doing an event, doing a piece of art to get auctioned off, whatever the case may be. And there's a bunch of things that I can look back on and go, whoa, we like a buddy of mine has a charity in Iowa, and when he laid down, like, what he finally set me down, was like, yeah, this is what we managed to do with, like, the proceeds of the show this year. And it's, like, pretty amazing when you see that, right?
Yeah,
like,
you
actually see, like, this guy has it's for kids with heart problems called Helping Hannah's Heart, and they, like, literally take all the money that this place gives, they give directly to families to, like, get them to the best hospitals, get them to these places. And, like, it's crazy. Like, so it made me realize, like, if you're going to do something like this, you have to make sure it's somebody that's working directly with the people. It can't, you can't give to, like, you don't want to go, like, corporate style charities. Like, you go grassroots, and this is helping, like, a local food pantry, a local animal shelter, whatever it is, it's directly affecting.
If an executive of a charity that you support drives a Mercedes or a BMW, you are supporting the wrong...
You're supporting the wrong charities, man.
Yeah.
Those aren't... If you're supporting charities where that's their job and they make more money than you do, then you're supporting the wrong charity. most of these people that I know, this isn't even. This guy does all this. Him and his wife do this because their daughter had
They went through it
has a heart.
personally.
They went through it personally, and so she wasn't even supposed to be alive still, dog. And she's about to go to college, and
So every year they get to. I mean, I'm sure that was an incredible. Was it like a successful surgery that prolonged your life?
oh yeah, all these things, several surgeries, all still continuing care now.
So how
but
much, they probably get
that's
so much
Hannah
joy,
helping
like-
Hannah's heart. Hannah is the girl, is their daughter, and it's my buddy John and his wife Kim Wells up in Iowa, and they do Vintage Torque Fest, and that's actually getting ready to happen in the beginning of May. But dude, and that was a guy I didn't even know, dude. I didn't even know he was going through all this. I used to be in a car club here, and he would come to town, and I would help him vend. He sold like Ratfink T-shirts and like car memorabilia and shit like that. That was his job. He drove around. He sold comic books and shit, but he was like a dealer. He's basically an art dealer in a way. But him and I got to know each other, and I was always good at selling shit. Like I can sell car people shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And one day he like breaks down and he starts telling me about his daughter, and he's like, "Yo, I really want to do this thing, and I want to put a show on like this where we can, cover some of the medical bills." So it started about helping his kid, and now it's like he sponsors families. And it was just wild. And our car club got together, and we basically said, "Here's the money to go." The president of our car club was like an awesome dude. This guy Todd Carnahan, he was a big mentor of mine, and I told a buddy of mine, Eric. Eric then said, "We're gonna go talk to Todd." Then Todd said, "I'm just gonna give him that amount of money. We will donate that," because we were donating
like
to charities every year. He was like, we're gonna cover, like, we're like, this guy needs this. Like it was like nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like 3,500 or something like that.
Right.
And like, so we did it, and he's still doing that show. This is like 10, 12 years later. I don't even know what number we're on.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, dude. So,
And then he they get to watch their daughter grow, but then also they get to know that whatever family they're helping out, what they're feeling and going through. I mean, that's just gotta make them feel.
And like the relationships, the car culture is crazy in that like I've gone out of town to these events up in Iowa, and he did the thing in Woodstock, Illinois. So long, even like, dude, but also to that guy's credit, when I was like at my lowest in life, fucked up on speed, like that dude never treated me no different. He would give me the shirt off his back to keep me alive, and he did a couple of times. Like I would come help him. He knew I was like down bad, and that guy would like pay me, having not like lost money, but still paid me.
Yeah.
And like I'll be down with that dude forever because of that. But man, to like the relationships you build, and you realize like, yo, like a cat that I only met through going to John's shows. It's this dude from Chicago, Michael Vella. Michael just messaged me, was like, "Hey, you want to split a hotel room?" He's this Italian, he's like an Italian guy that lives in Chicago. He's like, "You want to get a hotel room or what are we doing?" And I'm like, "Shit, I don't even know if I can go this year because of all the, I went and I got custody of my daughter, and I had to do all that this last month." But dude, it's pretty crazy. And I'm sure you have this similar thing in the comedy community where, like you were talking about, you meet these people 20 years ago, and yeah, these guys might be selling out shows at the Uptown Theater, but you get in there with them, and then you start talking, and you guys realize, like, fuck, we've known each other a long time, bud.
Yeah. The Island of Misfit Toys is what it was always called.
Yeah.
It was like, because everyone's, I mean, it was just, you were, like I said earlier, it was like we weren't necessarily welcoming to, but that was kind of the normal people.
Right.
That everyone else was welcomed in.
Right.
And take that, to mean whatever you will, but
the right people.
Yeah. It's almost like the people that maybe needed a little bit of help, or like a little bit of guidance, or maybe, you see something in like someone that's younger.
Right.
Or like, or they saw something in me, or like, oh,
Right.
hey, go do this, But yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm spacing out. Fucking.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, we went off on a heavy tangent.
I had a
about
long day. I was in the
fucking,
sun all day, so
oh,
I
shit.
was like, that took a lot out of me.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I was. I've been working on this van. I've been building the van. I was working on my van all afternoon.
Okay,
It's
so that's
like,
real work.
yeah, I was like, just
But-
over. I did. I started way too many parts of the process without finishing any of them. So like, I was like, okay, I gotta finish something this weekend.
That's a good feeling.
Like,
but no, the Island of Misfit Toys thing, and basically, it's like you're just in the trenches, and like people can have gone through what you've gone through, can relate.
Right.
And then there's also a thing where, man, when you're in like a real niche thing that like you really give a fuck about and have a lot of knowledge on, and people know that you care, and there's not that many people that do, like that's a powerful, that's a strong magnet right there.
yeah.
It's like, okay, there's knowledge, self-sacrifice, just everything that goes into like really devouring something, a topic, a hobby or a profession, and really becoming the best at it.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that's the bond, because if you've been doing cars since you were a kid, you know a lot of stuff. You probably blew a lot of old dudes' minds when you'd walk into garages and be like, how do you know all that stuff?
Oh yeah, man. I was telling somebody the other day, like they were joking about, they were talking about jokes that like, he's like a union machine operator, and we were all hanging out, and Mylan was telling all these like jokes about, oh, you like just like fucked up jokes, like job site jokes, about
Yeah.
like, hey, if you woke up, he looked at this guy and goes, if you woke up with a condom hanging out of your ass when you were the morning after you went camping with everybody, would you tell anyone? And this guy said yes, but mine's like, oh, generally most people say no, and that's when the guy would go, do you want to go camping? And it's like, that's just like some job site humor,
like,
right?
yeah,
like
some-
old guy
Norm
to
Macdonald,
like young guy humor. And I looked down and was like, man, you had a totally different experience than I did. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, I went to this place every day with a pompadour and cuffed jeans at a Peterbilt dealership. Was my first job in the industry out of school. And there was this guy, Stanley Sampson, and every day old Stanley would go, Elvis, you faggot, get over here. And it was like, but at the end of it all, like,
Yeah.
that dude taught me so much, and like really after like a while he quit saying that, but he grew to respect. I grew to respect him a lot, and he took a liking to me, and it was like a thing where like even to this day, like I look back and it's like I'll be doing something, be like, shit, this is some shit I learned from Stanley way back in the day.
Yeah.
But that guy would like really taught me a lot, and I've been lucky enough to do so many different parts of the industry to where I've met all these people. But at a certain point, I did decide like, yo, I'm not gonna do that, like, because it was okay for me, but like I don't shit on the younger people like that, because it turns so many people off
Yeah.
that like it's
Yeah.
lacking now, to where like I've been on a mission of like, yo, I'm trying to entice people to get back. It's like I'm stoked to see younger people getting more involved with cars, but it's like it used to be king shit, dude. Like it used to be like some of these car shows out here used to be the biggest event of the year in this town, and like
It was intimidating. I'm
yeah,
sure.
and it was
just get starting. You're like, what?
yeah, and now it's like people are like they were scared and they don't know, and I'm like, this is why I've always told people like anyone can do, like I'm not special, dude. Like literally I could teach you how to do body work and weld and do all the things that I do. It's just how much patience do you have, and are you willing to like
What was that old grumpy guy's name?
Stanley Sampson.
Mr. Sampson. Stanley
Yeah.
Sampson. He probably was like, okay, he cares about it. He wants to know.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you want to see from a younger generation.
Right.
And it's like, okay, there is hope, and you're the guy that gives them hope.
Forever young cats ask me, oh, teach me how to paint, teach me how to paint. And I go, hit me up. Like, I'm not calling you, bro. Annoy me.
Yeah.
You want to know, Come on, you can
I
annoy
never
me.
wake up and be like, hey, I want to teach Scott how to paint today.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm about to do this. Let me call Larry up because he said he wanted to learn. Like, nah, bro, that's not how it works.
No, you call up and say, hey, when do you need me to spot your ladder?
I
When do you need me to
Right.
hold a bag for you? You know, just
I used to work at a hot rod shop, and the first thing I would make somebody do is clean the bathroom. They'd bring me this guy. They're like, "Oh, this guy wants to learn." Like, okay, clean the bathroom.
yeah,
And then I go in there, and they would look at me like, "What?" I'm like, "Go clean the toilet, dude." And then I go in there, and be like, "Not clean enough. Clean it again."
yeah,
And then people be like, "Yo, that's fucked up." They're like, "What are you doing, Tyler?" And I'm like, "Hey, dude, these are $500,000 cars. So, how can you expect this dude? How can we let someone touch one of these cars when it's finished, like detail a $500,000 car, if he can't clean a fucking toilet?"
yeah,
And then they'd be like, "Well, okay, I kind of see that." And a couple of them people cleaned that toilet and went back in the second time and really cleaned that toilet, and then they learned how to work on cars.
yeah,
A couple of them people did not, and
yeah.
I didn't show them a thing.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta want to learn.
You gotta want to learn. You
One of
gotta
the worst
want.
advice I ever got from a chef I worked with. He was like, "Don't learn too much stuff, because then everyone's gonna want you to do it." And I was like, "You're my boss?" I'm like, that's a horrible advice. If you want to live life miserably and grumpy all day like you do,
Yeah. I
Dwayne. rest
I
in peace.
understand that to a sense, but I know that it's like, no, I learned all the stuff.
Yeah. Then it's at your discretion how you.
But it's
want
at
to-
my discretion how much I reveal to you that I know how to do. Because if you're going to pay me this much for doing this, well, I learned very quickly, like, you don't give them all the dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're like,
When it comes to these shop owners, you don't give them all the dick right off the top. You give them like half.
Yeah.
And you see how much they're going to pay you for that. And then one day you blow their mind. Like, we have a TIG welder at work. They didn't even know I could TIG weld. And then one day I was just like, "Hey, I need that TIG welder." It's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he used a TIG welder. Like, okay. And I took it and I was welding up my own thing. They're like, "You know how to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah."
you're like, I don't know. Maybe I do.
Maybe
I don't.
I kind of know how to do this. I fucking suck at it, actually. That's what I always tell people.
I
I
practice.
suck at welding. Well, before we wrap up, let's talk about your what you're doing here, comedy wise.
Well, it's actually kind of similar with the Samson guy or your old coworker.
Yeah.
Like when I got to town, I saw there's just a lot of really funny young comedians here.
Yeah.
Like great comics. Some of them have since left and gone on and doing really good things in New York and in LA. But it was a confidence thing. I'm like, man, you're really good at your jokes, but you don't believe it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like, I guess it takes some sort of crazy dude or comic to like move out to a coast. It's like not everyone necessarily has that. And to go way back early, you don't need to necessarily move anywhere nowadays.
I think what you're referring to is what I call required ego.
Yeah.
Which is the ego of self-confidence and knowing that you know what you're doing, but not showboating.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Yeah, it was, and I wanted more showboating. I'm like, guys, you're killing it. Like, and I'm like, can't even make eye contact with people in public. You know? And I'm like,
yeah.
Like, hey, like, and so what I would do is,
You're building these young
I
guys'
just want to build them
confidence
up.
up.
I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
it's not that hard. You just crushed. Like, why don't you see that? And like, I'm sorry your dad yelled at you a lot when you were younger, but just build up your confidence a little bit. And so I would just push, me like making them wash the toilets, if you will, 2 times.
Yeah.
The comedic version is that. How much time you got?
Yeah.
15 minutes. I'm gonna need you to do 22 minutes in a month. Can you do 22 minutes?
Okay.
in a
All right.
month?
Yeah.
And so I just make people, the growth in comedy happens when you're uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it's like, we're at a brewery, be uncomfortable. Why are you saying the same joke you did last week and the week before that and the week? It works every time. It's going to work tonight. Just do one that doesn't work and maybe you get a new joke out of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it does work and you got a new closing bit. You know, like take some risk.
Take a chance.
So I'm just trying to incubate and promote and encourage, you know, just people to just. I mean, it's kind of like cheesy, but just believe in themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how this whole like pub crawl, comedy crawl thing came about. Was that right here in your neighborhood? I'm like, there's show over here, show at Mockingbird, show at 403, show at Hillsiders, and they're all 3 or 4 blocks away.
Right.
Great bars, great venues for, you know, entertainment. It just seemed like an easy, natural thing to do.
Right.
And then the hardest part with that was just like doing the old freshman basketball team cuts, you know. And because I asked for a list from a couple people, and I had my list, and then like if names matched up, then you know
that's a guarantee.
Yeah. And like there was some, and then I'd finished and was like, oh man, I forgot about, you know,
this person or that person.
So I went around. So I guess nothing personal. That's the hard part. Like when you run book shows, is people.
Oh,
I've
I know.
been that guy. They must hate me. I'm like, no, I don't know that you exist. As bad as that sounds, you know, it's like I'm not familiar. I don't hate you necessarily.
Right.
I just don't. I don't know you well enough yet. You know, I've no bad feelings at all.
I had a similar experience with the band recently where I asked them to play at this car show, and I've become friends with this person, and they said, yeah, we'd totally play, but we'd have to play, you know, like right at when it's getting dark. And it's like, well, slow down, Tonto. Like, you're playing first.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people, so I'm going to call in some favors, and we're going to try to get us somebody who, like, might be a little more known, little more liked than you, to close out the evening here.
Like,
but
I like the energy.
I love your energy, and I need you to bring that energy as the opening act.
Look, it is funny, from a comedic standpoint. Like, I'm setting the show up, and someone's like, "Does it pay?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't." It's this particular show does not pay.
Yeah.
And then, or like it'll be like an open mic, and I'm like, should I have been asking for money more? But I grew up in LA where there was no money in any of the shows. So
right.
I'm like, fuck, maybe that is. And for the record, all my shows do pay. But
well, that's the nice thing.
I'm like, this guy just started comedy 3 months ago, and he's already bitching about not getting paid. I'm
right.
like, how about just be quiet and to get funnier? Because you're making it hard to book you.
Yeah.
You know, just be easy to book. Be
down for it.
Yeah.
Don't ask for it.
Don't be a problem.
Just do your shit. What we're doing right now has done nothing. This show, my channel, it's literally has only cost me money.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I've enjoyed doing this. I enjoy making these videos. I've loved talking to people, and like I'm using it as like a tool for growth in a way. And I get to learn about people that I don't know or that I do know, and I learn things that I never knew about them, you know. But I would do this all the time for free. Like, I'm just doing this because I like to do it. I build cars. Yes, as my day job, it pays me. But like, I build my friends' cars. I'm painting Dan's gas tank. I'm not like, dude, pay for the materials. Like, we're like, I don't care. I just like building stuff. You know what I mean?
You're like, we're kind of hanging out anyway.
You have to be able. Yeah, you have to be down to do it for free. But even you knowing that, like, if you would have been like, you've been doing that monthly show at Hillsiders. And so, like, after a couple months, if those didn't pay anything, but you were bringing in big crowds and the bar was doing good, if you're dealing with a not shitty person, unto which Logan is a not shitty person, they would automatically be like, hey, dude, we're doing so good that I'm just going to give you some money because the bar is crushing.
Which is the case.
Right.
In this particular one, it was like, I was just so taken aback with the lack of experience. I'm like, your credits are like the barbecue place on 87th Street.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was like, relax on the...
Yeah. Chill out and you'll... Yeah. So remember that. If you love to do something, you would do it for free.
Yeah, and if
Because if I had to go get a different job, if let's say there's no more hot rod shops, right? So like I had to go work at we'll just use McDonald's as an out. I
Okay.
would never work in fast food, but if I had to go work wherever at a warehouse to pay the bills and support, my kid, I would, but I would also still build cars
Yeah.
for free, like in my own
I
time.
know what you'd be doing on Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
I'll be here at some point filming this, and then also I will be building cars
Yeah, and happy as shit.
and trying to get other people to get into building cars.
Yeah, that's important. Pass down that knowledge.
Right, and that's exactly what you're doing with your comedy stuff.
Yeah,
it
and I
seems
just
like.
try to save time, man. So many. I mean, it's everyone's path is different in life, and like whatever
Right.
you're doing, success is different. Is defined differently for everyone. But I just mistakes that cost me time, or maybe like, hey, that one time I shouldn't have done that, or I just try to like, hey, just trickle it down, take the, more or less my motto, if you will, like for the younger comics, like just take a beating like you're sparring as often as you can in front of your friends, in front of crowds of 4, 5, 6, 10 people.
Right.
And then eventually you'll get to that weekend spot where the club's packed and all those jokes that got like kind of like little spatterings of laughter in front of 8, 12 people, you're crushing. 200
Right.
people are absolutely dying laughter or dying of laughter, which is contagious. And then all of a sudden you get off stage and you're like, holy shit, I know how to do this. Like,
Right.
Can I get my paycheck? Yeah, here
Right.
it is. Your name's do we spell your name correctly? There you go. That's when you get your
Absolutely.
fucking paycheck. Your
Right.
real paycheck.
I feel the same way, man. You gotta, even with doing this show that we're getting ready to put on at the end of the year, it's like, you guys asked me, like, I'm helping, like, we're all doing this together, and like there's some things you gotta understand, like after 20 years of putting on car shows and rock and roll events, and over 20 years, like working shows in high school, throwing concerts,
Dude, all
throwing
the Riot Room
parties,
stuff,
the
all
Riot
the
Room stuff,
Granada.
booking bands,
Holy shit.
car shows, whatever kind of event, dude. Swap meets. I've done a lot, and through that you learn what works, what doesn't, what restraints you have, like time wise, and it just makes it to where it's like sometimes you have to be like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot right now with this comedy crawl and putting it together. I know I was like way too late. I got started too late with like my sponsors, which is luckily I found a few that are going to pay for my advertising.
Cool.
And stuff like that. But I'm like, I've got to learn from my mistakes here.
Yeah.
And because I want to do this again in the future.
Right, and the nice thing is like you set this one up so fast, right?
Yeah.
That after it's over, I'm sure it's going to have whatever success it is. It is, right? Like, and I recently told some people this, like, you don't do an event. You're not doing this for the crowd, right? I'm not throwing an event. I never throw an event thinking this is how do I get more spectators in. What I do is I go, what's most authentic? Like, for instance, with a car show, what's most authentic to my culture? Because that's my culture, is gearheads, automobiles, rock and roll. That's my culture. So I make the decisions based off of what do those people want, not what does Larry
right.
that might show up with his kids to check out the cars. I don't care what that guy wants.
Yeah.
Because I don't care if he comes. Because I'm not doing any of this.
And whatever's going to bring Larry and his kid in is probably going to dilute.
Most authentic.
It's not going to
whatever's bringing Larry in anyways.
Yeah.
Is going to be the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be whatever you think they want to see.
It's not the donkey show or the
Yeah, you don't need any of that Marquez shit. Like, you're already doing it, dude. You've asked for suggestions from your peers, who obviously these people would be the same people on that you consider your equals, your peers, your the people on the same level as you. You've asked them to give you a list of who they think is the funniest. You secretly wrote your own list. You then took and compared those notes and said, okay, if we all have these 4 people, those people undoubtedly are the funniest. And then you go, well, me and them have these 2, and then these 2 have these 2. So let's include them too, because I'm missing something, or maybe I think they're missing something, whatever. But if more than one of us is agreeing, then these people are probably a part of this. And so then you're finding your spaces. But you also you're doing all that with the comedy in mind. What's best for the comedy. So you're doing the most authentic way. You're not going, because being the funniest.
I booked the shows for the people to come, and those shows suck. The people come, but the show.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Good. Right.
The picking the people you think are the funniest is different than picking the person who has the biggest following.
Yes.
Because those two things
rarely they
rare.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they do, but not at this level usually.
So I'm setting on this show. It's it's a 1 o'clock, three different shows. It's it's a 4 or 5 hour pub crawl. So I'm sitting in okay, Hillsiders is the last show. I'm looking at the list who's gonna be able to handle drunk people.
Right.
Who's going to be able to handle someone drinking for 4 hours? That person can. That person can. That person can. Oh, you can't do that? You want to move to 3 o'clock? No problem. You're on the 3 o'clock show. Sucks, but whatever. You're out. You're still,
Yeah, you're still a part of it.
That was definitely a part of not only looking at the list, validating, getting that validation for the ones I wasn't familiar with. But then also just them being wait, that one time she crushed that drunk dude that one time at that show. Yes, she's on there. And then oh yeah, he's really good with that one joke. Yep, no, we'll put him on that show. And then the first show is people that are just starting out.
Right.
And I hate just starting out because,
new fresh faces.
The race is different paces for everybody. Fresh faces, thank you. And then the second show, it's kind of I don't even want to that's the headliner show too. It just happens to be at 3 p.m. at 403 Club.
Right.
And that's we're artists are fragile, and so that was that was on honestly the hardest
ego
part.
is a fragile thing.
I don't want to ruin bad days for so and so, because
hey, if any of you guys are watching that are part of that, just don't.
It's best intentions, and we're gonna do another one.
But don't even think about it that way. Just be glad to be included.
Yeah.
Right? And do what you do. If when my band used to play, if I was opening for somebody out of town, I went up there in my mind knowing, I'm about to destroy it.
Yeah.
I'm about to destroy this, and I'm either fucking the next band or I'm going to push them to up their game. You better up your game if you're coming after me. And that's how you do anything. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm first?
Yep.
No problem, bro. And then watch. That guy who's first, next time he might be last.
Yep. No.
Next time he might be the guy you're relying on to
mentality.
to close her down, because especially in comedy.
Man, I'm getting excited thinking about this now. This is great. I'm getting the juices flowing.
Especially in comedy, man. That you fuck around and find out real quick that Little Johnny, it's the ones that just say, yeah, okay. Those are the ones, The ones that you never hear, the person that never bitches, and when they're coming to be a part of your thing, they just go, what do you need me to do? I can do that.
Yeah. I've been really lucky. There's multiple people that would fit that description here in town comedically.
Yeah.
They've been very easy to work with. Great people to ride in cars with. That's another thing, Yeah. You get these long car rides, but it's oh, you got a history degree? Yeah, educate me, you know?
Yeah.
And, I've been really lucky with some awesome, people here, new comedy friends.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to introduce them when my old friends come to town. I remember when Ari Shafir was here last year, and I walk out and we leave the club, and it's like just a bunch of the open micers that are just the fresh faces, if you will. And I knew a couple of them, and they were just all like staring at Ari through the glass. And I'm like, "Do you guys want to meet Ari?" And they're like, "Yeah." So bang on the door, go back in. And I was like, so I yell at Ari, he comes over. I'm like, "Ari, let me introduce you to these are the guys. I'm vouching for him, vouching for him, vouching for him. Don't know him, don't know him, don't know him. But everyone here is really cool. I gotta go. It was nice to see you." And then left. But then the next day on social media, it was, it was awesome. Everyone had their pictures. And I was like, man, I was really glad I did that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't realize that all these fuckers look up to Ari.
Right.
Oh, this his hero.
Yeah. What a weird hero to have. But he is a great dude. I remember when Ari was the Amazing Racist.
Yeah.
And he was on the Sham Vince. I remember having that DVD that Vince Shlomi put out. What was the name of that?
You could briefly buy it at Best Buy.
Yeah, I had it. I had a copy of it. And that's where we saw the Amazing Racist stuff first.
What was that?
And then it had, I remember it had Michael Clark Duncan and Ant. And they had a skit called The Gay Virgin, dude. And that you can find that online. It's hilarious.
Dude, Ant?
That was the weirdest movie. It had this like cut scene where it was like this weird like fake porno, and it was this Donna of the Dead. That was the weirdest movie, dude. But that was the ShamWow guy.
Dude, Ingram was supposed to host that DVD. So I remember that because I was doing the Amazing Racist stuff, and then he's like, "Ingram, you want to host this series?" And he's like, "Sure, whatever." And this was like. This is 2005, 6. Anyway, Rick drove down there to do the deal, couldn't find it, and then later that night, Ari was like, "Where'd you go? You drove right by me. I was yelling at you." There's this weird thing where had he heard Ari parked his car, he would have been the host on that DVD.
Right. Yeah, Ari's probably also leaving out the part where it's like, I was the geisha girl. I was dressed like a geisha girl.
Dude, I forgot about that one.
He threw the oranges at the Mexican. He went down there, bought the bag of oranges, and threw the... Yeah. Dude. God, they're so funny, man. That video is hilarious. I'll have to look up what that was.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. Dude, the death threats. That's I think where he started with the, "You can find me right here. Here I will be. You want to murder me? I'll be at this location."
Yeah, this is crazy.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, dude, he still is like.
Ari, you're a sick man, funny as hell.
Yeah, he's hilarious. Well, when is the pub crawl?
That is the April 29th, the Saturday. The third round of the draft, so it's the day of the draft that no one cares about.
And then
Hillsiders
first
Tuesday every month.
First Tuesday every month.
And that's we're moving the start time down to 7. It was at 8. We're gonna move it to 7. That way people can kind of you're more or less you can be home by 9:30.
Yeah.
The show's about an hour and a half.
And do you have any other regular shows you're doing right now?
Casual Animal Brewery in the Crossroads.
Okay.
It's on 18th and McGee. That one is the 2nd and 4th. So more or less Tuesday nights. I love doing my thing.
Cool.
There was no Tuesday shows, and I'm like, didn't really conflict with anything that was booked already in town, and I didn't want to like compete. I wanted to like, there's nothing on Tuesday. Well, now there is. You know, you can go get your stage time on Tuesday now. And so that show also starts at 7.
Sick.
And
they can find you on
social at Jon Jon is here 2 TOO, and that's across all. But Jon, look at the bio right below my name's probably right there. Just type that in.
Oh yeah, Jon Schieszer.
The Schieszer.
The Schieszer.
But yeah, I'm around.
And what night can they come see you at Lucky Boys?
Mondays and yes, come Mondays and Wednesdays. 5 o'clock to about 12:30. Just amazing food all around. But yeah, I'm there most Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays I'll be there with Keenan.
Wednesdays you're there with Dan.
In my opinion, best burger in Kansas City. I haven't had Hamburger Mary's yet. I've heard they've got great things going there.
It's tight.
But amazing chicken sandwiches. It's just good. Come down and visit. And
Get some food.
I'll be there.
Go see some comedy.
Yes.
I'm stoked. I think I'm sold on, though I am sober, but like also all my friends own all those bars that you're doing the comedy. I'm coming to the pub crawl. I have to go. I gotta see some of these comedians. I need to get.
Dude, I need your actually, I'm gonna need your help. Probably.
Yeah. I'm just gonna help. I need to come to Hillsiders and I need to start.
We're doing some things differently. Mainly starting at 7 is going to be nice.
Yeah.
At the Hillsiders.
No, I'm down for it.
And what's great, man, that show, it's been a really nice show. The comics here are really wanting to get, it's just intimate, and I do fewer comics with more stage time.
Right.
That's the goal.
We talked about that already.
Yeah. And so
but again, it's nice because you can rotate. You can spread that love around.
Yep.
To different people, and since you're doing different,
and I try to use it to write new. I try to like, here's my new shit, and just kind of work it out.
Right.
And so I've tried to use those shows to just flush out new ideas.
Hell yeah!
Get the insanity out of the head and into the microphone.
Fuck yeah! Well, John, I'm glad we finally, after our 14th attempt, we've made this happen.
This is great.
That was mostly my fault for
Life's busy.
Life's
crazy.
I almost canceled today.
Dude, I'm glad. It worked out.
Here I am. I said, screw it. What time is it? It's that John Prine show. I have to wait. It's 9:30. I might not even go. It's like a tribute show at the Record Bar.
Tonight?
Yeah. It started at 8. It's just a bunch of different people playing John Prine songs. I might still roll up there. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes.
Follow John.
Thank you. Support comedy wherever you live. Go see the locals because they're funny, and then you'll see them on Netflix in a couple of years, and you'll be like, I saw that guy at a deli shop.
Don't support your local police department. We'll see you next time.